Hello and welcome back to Blood and Ashes. This is episode 48. I'm your host Mo, and I'm joined as always by my reluctant Captain Generals Willie and Jody.
Ooh. Hello, everybody.
Jody, you look confused. Does that reference not make any sense to you, considering the subject matter of today's episode?
No, I just wasn't expecting it. You surprised me, Moritz. You caught me off guard. What a terrible Captain General. I should be demoted.
Well, that's a good hint about what the topic for today's episode is going to be. I've dubbed it in my notes, The Forgotten Battle.
Yeah, totally.
I must say that, that while reading about Matt's exploits in these chapters, because, I mean, let's face it, that's the highlight of what's happening. There's a bit of sort of aftermath with Rand, but it's, for me anyway, the highlight is all the Matt stuff. I did get some flashbacks about reading this on previous reads. Obviously, I mean, you're not going to forget the stuff completely. But what I did do this time, as is so often the case, is form a new picture of it in my mind, like really trying to, imagine the terrain and stuff. And I remember specifically, the image of almost a Monty Python, Terry Gilliam-esque animation of like troops with flags and pennants like going up and down behind hills and coming up, from my early memories, just sort of rolling hills, but this time a lot more sort of focused on the gullies and the sort of little ravines and stuff that they're moving through, which is how I pictured it this time. Did you guys picture anything different, and what was it?
Exactly what you're saying. Like that battle where Matt meets the Shido now. I remember that scene now when I was reading it, but I remembered it completely different. I had a different camera angle. I was looking at it in my old memory from the south instead of the north, and this time I'm completely different. I remember it being in like a dry riverbed, but it's not. It's in a gully between hills. And like, whoa.
It's like reading it the first time.
Yeah.
There are so many battles in this book, so let's just be honest. You can confuse all of them because in my mind, the towers was only in Do My Wells, and there's a tower here. And I'm like, but no, doesn't he also build a tower in Do My Wells for Nynaeve?
He's in a box in Do My Wells.
Ain't no towers.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah.
Ooh, I sense big surprises for Willie in book 6.
My battles is all fumbled up.
Yes, but that happens. That's natural. Like, it's the same for me. But that is just, I mean, I'm taking a lot of pleasure in reading the stuff and seeing it with a new eye and maybe with a more mature eye. I think I've mentioned to you guys when I was in high school and I read this book, when I read Fires of Heaven the first time, I read it over a weekend. Like, I just didn't leave my bedroom. I was like 17, 18, sitting in my bedroom, and I just read in a comfy armchair all weekend. And I think what I did was I just charged through it, I obviously didn't let any of the stuff percolate or sink in properly.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Something else that's going to have to sink in properly is the names. I'm eager to hear what everyone's pronunciation of all of the band
I was wondering
members.
Why you gave me certain chapters here. And while preparing these chapters, and I realized I've got every lord and lady from the south of Tia to the north of Cairhien.
And so it begins.
that started way faster than I was anticipating.
Yes. You're jumping the gun. It's funny, Vil. Like, I mean, that was certainly not the intention, but it is hilarious that it worked out that way. But I think all of these chapters are filled with them because we are introduced here to a number of characters that we actually read about for quite some time.
Oh yeah, this big players coming on board now.
Oh yes, and I found it a real challenge to sort of read these names now and then thinking about the fact that I'm going to have to say them out loud, not just reading it the same as I've always read it with my own internal monologue pronunciation. I'm going to have to. We'll compare notes when we get there. Okay, now another thing about all these guys is specifically the members of the band that we meet here. We meet a whole bunch of them. What I also realized to no one's surprise, is that I never actually had a very, very clear image of what each one of them looks like physically. And even with their names and their attitudes and that sort of thing, they all kind of just blended together
one.
for me, right? Like whenever I read those names, I'm like, yeah, one of the main guys from the band, not like an individual persona.
Yes.
It was just like, yeah, band guy. Got it. Yep. Rad. He's cool in my books. Follows Matt. He must be a legend. But I'm really going to try hard, and I'm going to ask you guys to help keep me honest. And whenever we read about these guys, I'm going to check in and go, right, this is this guy, right? The Terran or the Cairhien or whatever. Is he the cavalry leader? Is he the foot leader? Is he the one with the beard or the shaved head? You know, like this, a lot of it just blends together. Like I could have just described the same person in that section.
Is he a fat guy or is he a thin guy? Is he a short guy?
Stocky dude.
Does he have blue
does he
eyes?
have a shaved forehead and a pointy beard? Because they literally
that's all of
have.
the young ones.
It's like, that does not
This is part of the problem.
Again, that's like, who the fuck shaves their forehead and why?
That's like those
Have
old
you seen
Kung
the
Fu
cinematic
movies.
masterpiece? I was about to say, have you seen the cinematic masterpiece Kung Pao? Are you familiar with a character named Betty?
Yes.
For those listeners that have not seen that cinematic masterpiece, do yourselves a favor and go check that out. And when you see the character, when you're introduced to Betty, that is the type of person that shaves the front of their head. All right. All of this tomfoolery aside, time for some serious business in everybody's most serious and favorite section called callbacks. Okay, let's shoot through these so that we can get into the good shit. Willie, can you explain to the listeners what stubbies are and how they form part of a 7-course meal?
Oh, this is a stubby. Holds up beer to camera. Stubby is just.
I was about to say it doesn't work well in an audio format.
Yeah, stubby's a beer, man. That's
the beer.
Yeah, and then you put the stubby in a stubby holder, which is a wetsuit for a beer to keep it cool against the Australian heat.
A very, very Australian invention, that, eh? Like a neoprene sleeve for your beer.
This one I have in my hand right now.
Yes. Yeah. Took the time and effort to invest in technology and man hours to manufacture en masse many, many stubby holders to keep the many, many beers in Australia cold. Then we asked how long between the girls joining Luca and doing the performances, because we were talking about how quickly Elaine just became a tightrope walker and Julian overcame his fear of heights and, you know, all that sort of stuff. 22 days.
Bullshit. Sorry.
According to the timeline that I have been referencing thus far.
People learn to fly planes in 22 days, man. I'm not saying they're flying them well, but...
According to the movies, people sometimes learn how to fly them in 22 minutes with the pilot tires and they have to land it.
Look, in 22 days, could Elaine have learned how to balance on a rope? Sure. Can she learn how to do backflips and front rolls? And nah. But I'm going to leave it. Yeah. I'm going to leave it there because, listen.
Fantasy. Yeah. Let's move on. Like we said, she's one of those people that's just good at everything.
We got lots of names to go through now. Let's not focus on those ones.
We do. Nah. Speaking of time spent in places, how long was Rand in the Waste? Any guesses?
I'm going to go
72 years.
He was there for 40 days and 40 nights.
84 days between the portal stone and emerging from Jangai Pass. Then we were laughing about like hunting accidents and how many kings were dying in hunting accidents and how, like, you know, that happens to Robert in Game of Thrones or in Song of Ice and Fire. And then we said, weren't there other people that were killed in hunting accidents here? And we mentioned Cairhien, who was killed by Tadosian in a hunting accident. So that's High Lady Ultima's husband. You know, that whole little love triangle that we did that we did mention. But also Tarangale Damodred, Galad's dad, who was plotting to kill Morghese. Tom arranged for a hunting accident to be his swift end. When he learned that he was plotting to kill Morghese, Tom put a stop to that. Quick smile.
Yeah, that's Tom's speciality, king killing.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, okay, technically he wasn't a king, but I mean, he wanted to be king, and he was on his way to doing it. How much did the White Cloaks in Lugard know about Mara and where she was heading? Like, could that be where Galad got his sort of info and his orders to go to Saladar from? Was Saladar mentioned at all? But even Brian's men, who was sort of like investigating Mara, only knew that they had headed west, so no mention of Saladar from the White Cloaks or Brian's men. So I don't know where Galad got his orders from. Might be what's the spy master, old Pedronile spy master, Seban Balwer? Is that him? He's the
yes,
yeah, yes, that's the
fairly
guy.
certain.
100%.
Okay. Call back.
Is it not Asanowawa or something like that?
Radam Asanawa. No, he's a different guy.
He's a White Cloak, right?
Oh yes,
All right.
he is.
I got that part right.
You got one, Jody.
Yahoo!
I'll give you half a point. Yes, it was, as Jody said, according to Lan, infantry are more likely to know discipline than cavalry, probably because, as Lan says, survival depends on knowing discipline, and infantry would be more vulnerable to death than cavalry, so they need to know.
There's my other half a point.
There's your other, yeah, Jody on the board with a full point. How many men did Wereman command? 800, like you said, against 160,000 Aiel. He just wanted to charge with his horses. Rand should have fucking let him. We quickly mentioned, or Vil, I think when you did your chapter summary, the pirates and the brigands that Wereman was talking about in Tyr. They are, I think Rand says in a later chapter, they are more than likely Illianers and part of Samael's attempt to provoke Rand into action. So I think we alluded to in the last episode that it might have been dissident behavior, like, Terran locals sort of like just, maybe being opportunistic while Rand is not around. But it is probably Samael sending people in there just to antagonize Tyr and
always doing the golden bees work.
Yes, glory to the golden bees. We said that Wereman is a dark friend. What I forgot to say last time is that Rand notices that Wereman's sigil only lacks a couple of stars. Otherwise, it would match Lanfear's exactly. Which is it's a bit lazy on Wereman's side. I mean, it's probably been his family sigil for a long time, but it's just like, wow, okay, maybe don't have the same sigil as one of the Forsaken.
No.
The first time we hear about dice rattling in Matt's head is when he's going to save the girls from the Stone of Tyr, Joe.
Ah, all right.
So it has happened. And then, Jody, you said, was Robert Jordan, did he serve in the military? Boy, did he.
Yeah.
He was, I think he was a gunner in a helicopter, like a helicopter gunner. And he served 2 tours of duty in the Vietnam War. He was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross with an oak leaf cluster, which means that he distinguished himself by single acts of heroism or extraordinary achievement while participating in an aerial fight. He was awarded the Bronze Star with a V and oak leaf cluster for either heroic achievement, heroic service, meritorious achievement, or meritorious service in a combat zone. And in the army, the V is worn solely to denote participation in acts of heroism involving conflict with an armed enemy. And 2 Vietnamese gallantry crosses in recognition of deeds of valor or heroic conduct while in the combat with the enemy. So, yeah. He went there. He did cool shit in the sky and got a bunch of medals for it.
All right.
So he knows about battle. I think we were talking about his service because we said, like, to write, like a military mind, you would need to have a military mind. And it seems like RJ certainly qualified. Willie, this is a very pedantic correction from me. You mentioned that Rand balefires Asmodean to resurrect Matt in Cairhien later, but it's Ravin, obviously, not Asmodean. And then we asked, where is the Horn of Villiers? And none of us could remember. And we said, look, maybe it's in the White Tower because Paden Fane, he stole the dagger, but it was in its own separate like lead case, and he took only the dagger, and there was no mention of the horn in that room or anything like that. Or if you saw it, he certainly didn't take it. So I went to go look it up, and it is still in the tower. And no one talks about it again until like the end of the book. So we can be forgiven for not keeping our finger on the pulse of where it's going, because it's not going anywhere.
Well, luckily, we're not in charge of taking care of that thing. Where did you put it? Oh.
I tell you what, if I was in charge of the Horn of Alia, we'd be drinking beers out of it on a Friday night.
Yes.
Blowing it every Friday night to hang out with heroes.
All right. Let's move it along to a quick recap. So previously on Blood and Ashes, Elaine performs her tightrope act and Nynaeve spots Uno in the crowd watching and then follows him through the crowd. She catches up to him and Uno ends up leading Nynaeve into Samara proper to meet the prophet, who we learn is Masema. Nynaeve meets Masema and barely gets out alive, but she does get him to agree to find them a ship to take them to Tyr. On their way out of town, they're confronted by Galad, who also offers to find them a ship to get them to safety. Uno, Reagan, and a couple of the potentially a couple of other Shinaran soldiers offer to accompany the girls on the rest of their journey. Then we jump to Rand and the Aiel leaders, who are surveying the battlefield around Cairhien in anticipation of a full-blown battle with the Shido. Rand has a smattering of Terran and Cairhien soldiers to add to his Aiel, and then there are 4 more clans camped nearby that have not stated their intention regarding joining Rand or the Shido. Matt plans to leave Rand and avoid anything to do with war, but in Rand's tent, he runs into Lan, who coaxes a detailed battle plan from him, seemingly on Rand's orders. Rand doesn't try to stop Matt when Matt tries to leave and wishes him well, and Matt leaves feeling like he's finally free of his Taveran duties.
And everybody laughs raucously.
That brings us to this stretch of chapters which deal almost exclusively with his exploits in war.
Exclusively with him not getting away at all.
Yes. I mean, I say that. I mean, there's a lot of like Rand and Egwene and Avienda stuff going on here as well, but I can't look past all the delicious Matt content we get. So let's get straight into that content, starting with chapter 43 called This Place, This Day. Take it away, Jody.
I love the name of this chapter. It's a rad chapter in general. Yeah. Well, we start off with Rand. I know we had a huge Matt build up here, but he's not. We start with Rand. And he is up. It's the day of the battle, and he is up already, well before first light. In fact, he didn't sleep at all. And everyone else is already up before him anyway. Avienda has already gone. She had maiden business to attend to, so she slipped out of the tent. Rand is lying there just entirely preoccupied with how many men are going to die today and how he's going to save the maidens from that same fate as well. That whole shtick that we've heard about. But just wondering as well, like these thousands of people that are going to die today, and what could he have done differently to prevent it? And, you know, obviously he couldn't have done anything. It would have just resulted in the same, but in the future, he's going to try and do things different. He's just so desperate. The clan chiefs come into his tent. They tell him, of course, everything's ready. The men are in position. There's not really much else to discuss. The plans are made. You know, life is life. Life is a dream, not life is life. Life is a dream, they say. It's time to kill some Shido. Today they'll bathe the spears in Shido blood. Some of them are, you know, eager to get going. Some of them are very reserved, but everybody is ready. They try and make him change his mind about the maidens. He's going to keep them around him and away from you know, he's got them on errands that will keep them out of harm's way because of that whole not wanting to get women killed and stuff that whole thing we've spoken about before. But Rand's not listening. He refuses that shit because, you know, everyone knows because Sulin went and ran and told the wise ones, tattled on him. And everyone knows now, but he's not letting up. Lan is up already as well. Of course, he's there. Without Moraine, she is in her tent. She is mentally preparing. Lan calls it fretting, but I find it hard to see Moraine fretting over anything.
No.
I wrote here, she is mentally preparing for the healing marathon that she is about to embark on. Of course, she's not going to help in the battle because of the oaths, but she will definitely do the healing part of it. Rand suggests that, tells Lan that she should go tell her, like, why doesn't she link with the wise ones that can channel as well and make it easy on her on herself. But he doesn't even know where that thought came from, and if he knows it, but where he learned about healing. I assume it's some memories bleeding through from Luz, or he may have just heard it somewhere along the line. Who knows at this point?
Asmodean teaching.
Yeah,
Maybe.
There's a whole bunch of reasons, a whole bunch of possibilities.
They talk about it.
Anyway, at this point, he doesn't know where he heard it from, but anyway, he said it. It's out there. Lan wants to know why Rand is wearing the sword again. He guesses correctly that Rand means to kill Couladin with it. He's telling him, like, listen, you can make a sword out of the power. You can just use the power straight up. Why are you wearing a sword? And he's like, in case I, bump into this guy on the field of battle today. Using the power against him would be like fighting a baby. It's going to be way too easy. It's unfair. So, I'll carry my sword in case I meet Couladin. And Lan actually praises Rand's skill with the sword. He's like, look, you're good. In fact, you're very good with the sword. But remember that Couladin was practically born with a spear in his hand. So if you can avoid it, rather just avoid it. Don't risk it at all. Like for your personal vengeance, you are the dragon.
Don't gamble the fate of the world.
Yes.
On your weird, twisted sense of honor.
Yeah.
It reminds me so much of Indiana Jones. I think it was in the Temple of Doom, or it was the Last Crusade, where that Arabian knight comes out with his curved blade,
scimitar,
swinging over, and he looks at it and just pulls out his pistol and shoots him.
That scene was unscripted.
The way you do it.
That was
it was not scripted, no. Yeah.
But brilliantly so. Anyway, yes, so it's like that. Don't take any unnecessary risks. You are the savior of the world. So focus, bro. Focus.
Be like a Harrison Ford character and shoot first.
Yes, from far, far away.
Yes.
So Rand's like, fine.
You should be up in a tower.
I won't. Yeah. If only we had one. Oh wait. Rand promises, okay, I won't take any unnecessary risks. But there's a lot of blood on this Couladin's hands, and all the towns he's burnt, the people he's killed. Like, fuck, we got to do something about this guy. And Lance suggests, like, look, if you're so desperate, why not just make 100, like a group of 100 men, 1,000 men, single mission, go and catch Couladin, and then bring him back here, and we'll behead him. Like, if you really want to, like personally seek this dude out, send like a specialized team to go and get him. But yeah, that doesn't happen either. Outside the tent, Egwene and Avienda are there. They have arrived. It's still pretty dark, just pre-dawn, so it's hard to make out. But it seems that every maiden in existence is there as well, in a tight circle around his tent. So his plan was to go out into the battle and leave the maidens behind to protect them, but he ain't going nowhere. Yeah, they've got him there now.
Oh, naive old Rand.
Naive old Rand. He's foolishly thinking that because he is the savior of the world, he gets to make the decisions. But no, that's not how it works.
Nope.
No. So they have come to escort him to the tower. And then I've put in notes, Tavir's tower, not the White Tower, because that could be...
yes.
Because that happens next book, and it doesn't turn out as well.
Nope.
So they're gonna help him fight today. I mean, that's Egwene and Avienda, of course, using the one power. And he's a bit surprised about that as well. So he tells them, all right, fine, get to their places. This new plan sucks, but they won't budge. And he just hears, like, in unison, Fardaris Mai carries the honor of the Kara Khan. And everybody just repeats it. Lan eventually tells him, listen, bro, give it up. We'll be here all day if you plan on fighting this. They are not going to let you go. It's the end of the road. This is the new plan. And anyway, this is a better plan. You should be far away from the fighting and be a general in this situation, getting up on the tower, surveying the land. That's a really good fucking plan. So he announces, Rand announces eventually, like, he gives in and announces, all right, I've decided to go to the tower. And Sulin's right there next to him, goes, as the Kara Khan commands, without any sass or any tone of voice, just like as if it was his idea all along. Ring of Maidens surrounds Rand. Lan slips away unmolested. And off they go to the tower. Egwene and Avienda are up there as well. They're studying the field of battle. And Rand speaks to them as like, I thought the wise ones didn't get involved in battles, because they can walk through a battle unmolested. Like when the two clans are fighting, no one will touch a wise one because they don't participate. But Avienda says, well, technically she's not a wise one yet. And then the wise ones told her to do is what she thinks she must do. It's all very out there, all. Anyway, so she also heard Mullane say that Rand brings change, and he's like, "Yep, I do that. That's what I do." So
I do that.
Indeed, Egwene and Avienda are sitting there quietly discussing. They're making their little plans. Rand, you can't even hear them. What they're going to do with the one power. Rand feels one of them or both of them, whatever. His skin starts to tingle as they start channeling. Clouds form in the sky, and lightning starts striking down on the field of battle immediately. So shit has hit the fan. It has begun, and everywhere where the lightning strikes, the earth explodes where they land, and it's like constant. It's not random lightning bolts. It's constant, like clockwork, with like a rhythm, just constantly. Rand starts channeling as well. Probably thinks he needs to get in on this, and just starts enveloping hilltops around the city in flames. A trick that came to him in the moment through Luz's memories. He's literally melting the earth. Like the top of hills and trees just burst into flame, and when the flame goes out, the hills are lower and blackened. So like why? And also while he's in the middle of all of this, he hears Ilyena, my love, forgive me in his mind, and that like really throws him off. He's almost overrun and overtaken by the power, but he regains control and then continues his melting of the hilltops. That's where we leave them for the moment, and then we jump over to old Matt. Matt is still trying to get the fuck out of there with very little success. He had left even earlier, but he's being sidetracked by Rand's Aiel and by the Shido Aiel. Everywhere he goes, he didn't count on them coming up from the south, which is actually in his own plan. He thinks to himself, like, I did actually mention that in my plan. I should have known. So anyway, he's being funneled west instead of south, right into the middle of the fighting. So he's hiding out in the trees above this little hill, having a look around, trying to find a way to get the fuck out of there. When he spots a group of Aiel around, he sees them there. He doesn't know. Maybe they're Rands. Maybe they're Shido. He doesn't know. But he's not taking any chances. He's already been attacked once already in that day. He's got a slice through his coat where an arrow went through him, or just skimmed him. And he's just thinking about his day so far. He had made such a good escape in the morning. Melindra also, was up before him, like Avienda before Rand, and had that maiden meeting to go to. So he avoided that unpleasantness completely. He's being pushed, like I said, he's being pushed west instead of the south, in the direction he wants to take. Then he sees a group of the Terrans and the Cairhien men, pikemen, there's cavalry, defenders of the stones. I thought to myself, well, that's a nice little mix of everyone you need. They're disorganized, but they're disciplined at least. They've got some outriders. But through the looking glass, he's got a little mini looking glass version that he won from old Kin Tovir, who does like the dice himself as well. Obviously hadn't heard anything about Matt and his luck, but anyway, Matt won himself a nice little pocket looking glass. He sees the Shido approaching. So those Aiel, they are no bueno. And he looks over, of course, to the Cairhien and the Terrans as well, but they can't see that there are Shido coming. So he's up on the hill. He sees both. Neither of these two groups know that the other one is there, but they're heading straight for each other. So it's obvious that they are going to meet, and Matt can't just sit there and let this happen. So he's just, fucked. Maybe, okay, just this once. I'll just go down and I'll warn them, and then I'll leave, and that'll be all. All right. So he rides down to the Terrans and the Cairhenians and everything to warn them. And I got confused during this entire process because I keep on thinking that the people in the front are the Cairhenians because it's in their land. But of course, Rand had sent the Terrans to rule everywhere, so they're always in charge of everything. So yeah, it is very difficult to keep track of everybody in this stretch of chapters. But anyway, him riding down to go and warn them like a light blinded fool surprises even himself. He doesn't even realize that he's doing it until he's actually doing it. Luckily for him, the way the land lays, the Shido can't see him either or them, so he's just he's safe for now. So he'll just go and warn them, and then he'll sneak out the back, and he'll continue his little journey to the south to get away. So sure, buddy. You just keep telling yourself that. So he just charges in amongst this group of Cairhenians and Tarians, and he tells them, straight out, just screaming at them like, "Halt in the name of the Lord Dragon!" And he uses the line, "Or he will channel your head into your belly and feed you your own feet for breakfast." I'm thinking, what the fuck? That doesn't even make any sense. Channel your head into your belly and then feed you your own feet. But you'll be full because your head will be in your belly. Or you won't have a head to eat your feet. Anyway, we leave it there. He takes charge.
Maybe the feet will be entering the belly from the other end?
I don't know. Whatever it was, it worked. They stopped and they start listening to him. So he takes charge because he doesn't trust them to get it done quickly enough. He's like, all right, well, I've seen what's going to happen. There's Shido. They are getting closer. They're coming closer right now. You guys are stuck here. You haven't seen them. I have. This is what you should do. These are your orders. The Lord Dragon said you must do this. And then he's going to, of course, bugger off. They resist at first to him coming in. Like, who the fuck is this guy? Like some rando just rode up and told them that the Lord Dragon's sending them commands. But luckily, Estian is there. How is that your pronunciation?
Yes.
This is an easy one.
That's an easy one. That's a gimme.
That's an easy start. First one. He knows Matt. He was the gambler there with Matt when all the cards came alive and tried to kill them all in the room in the Stone of Tyr.
He's High Lord Torian's son. The two of them look like farmers. They're the ugly ones.
Yes, the ugly
potato head looking people.
So anyway, he knows Matt. So he's like, no, listen, guys, this guy is really friend of the Lord Dragon. We better listen to what he says. So their orders had been apparently to hold back, but they wanted to fight, so they ignored Rand's orders. What a bunch of assholes, So Matt thinks himself, they're already not where they are supposed to be, and now so they can't turn around because they're too big. It's like you said, Mo, like the hills and the valleys, they're narrow. So to turn this entire party, and there's hundreds of them, they're going to get spotted when they do it. So the only choice is to go forward or to stay where they are, regardless, it's going to turn into a fight. So he tells them about the Shido and he starts, explaining about his plan. And they all, all of these guys start looking excited and start boasting about how many Aiel they're going to kill, grinning and laughing, slapping each other on the shoulders. The only person not doing it, though, is Estian. And I thought, I like this guy already. All right. The rest just want to charge off and start the fight. And he even thinks to himself, if he hadn't said that he was Rand's friend, they would have just charged right over him and just gone and killed themselves. So Matt starts giving his orders. He's like, all right, this is going to be the plan. He tells the horsemen to ride ahead slowly, pretending that there are no Aiel. Just pretend like you don't know anything. You're just going to walk out there. As soon as the pikemen are through, they're gonna through the gap in the hills that is, and they start seeing the Shido, they're gonna open up into a square, which is he calls a hedgehog, and then the rest of them must get inside. And this pisses off the Tarians to no end because there's no honor in it, hiding behind the pikes. But in the end, they do as he tells them to, and he tells them like, "Listen, you've got the horse."
It's literally the function of pikemen.
Yes, you stand behind those guys. They're the ones with the long pointy poles to keep the guys away.
Yes,
yeah, even
why they exist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But no, they just want to charge out on their cavalry and go and fuck shit up. I mean, that is the point of cavalry as well. So I'll give them that. At least it's not 800 to 160,000. So a little bit different.
Who's the guy that's leading the cavalry? Isn't he? He's Weramon's second in charge. Rand had sent Weramon away.
Talmanes, as I pronounce it.
It's not. Hey, here we go, getting into it. My head pronunciation was always Telmanes, but for the podcast, I figure it's probably Telmanes.
That's how I always...
I don't think it's him. It's the guy that.
Oh,
I don't want to jump the gun, but he gets killed in this battle, like in this fight, because he disobeys
Melarin,
something with an M. Yeah,
Milarin Asangora.
Melanril. Yes, of the Tarian horsemen. Yes, sorry.
Milanril Asangora.
Yes.
Yeah. Talmanis is the head
Talmanis,
of the Cairhenians.
Is he? Okay,
yes,
we'll get there. We'll get there.
He is.
But this pompous dude that is sort of not listening to Matt is Weiramon's second in command, and
because
Rand had sent Weiramon away, and that's why this guy. Yeah, that's why this guy is not where he's supposed to be. He's just disobeying orders. That's why the guys are clapping each other on the back and like, yeah, we're going to kill so many Aiel. They're idiots.
Yes, because the second I thought that they're out of place, I thought, oh, where's Weiramon? And then I was like, oh, wait, he's not there. I thought he's totally in charge if they're not where they're supposed to be and doing whatever the fuck.
Rand sent him away to avoid exactly this.
Yeah, that didn't work either. But don't worry, like you say, it doesn't last long. The Tarian leader is Melanril is his name. Yeah. So anyway, the commander of the pikemen is Deodrid. He is an experienced soldier. He knows how to make a hedgehog. Like while Matt's speaking to him, he's like, this dude, he's not eager and he's not afraid. He's just got a job to do. He's like a dependable guy. So all right, I think we got like 2 out of 3 of the commanders in this group are reasonable men who can handle themselves in a battle. So that's pretty good, I'd imagine. So he explains the plan to the Cairhenians as well, because they're at the back of he has to go down, of course, through all these people and explain to them what's going to happen. They're going to split into 2 and they're going to flank the Aiel. They're going to send these horsemen and these pikemen down, and then they're going to like hook around. They're going to split into 2 and then come down from the sides. And Talmanis is there. He's very attentive. He's the leader, of course. So he's listening and he's looking at maps. And I'm like looking. I don't know how many times we've spoken about Talmanis, but I fear to say like this is the first time, because every time I say that, I'm wrong.
No, I think it's the first time.
All right.
I'm pretty sure it's the first time. Yeah.
I'll believe you. So anyway, I'm like, all right.
He's a Cairhenian cavalry commander.
Yes.
Which we have not read about. So
okay.
I'm fairly certain it's the first time we read about him.
I'm fairly certain about that too, but you never know. It's just I've known him for so many years that I don't remember when I first met him.
open invitation to the listeners to correct us here, because we are going to be stepping in it a lot.
Of course. But that's the invitation that has stood since episode 1. So just keep doing that.
Yes, so now we just find ourselves in the middle of a minefield.
So Talmanis agrees to the plan, obviously. He's like, well, this is a fucking rad plan. I also get to charge into Aiel, so that's a great plan. But he's only going to do it on the condition that Matt leads the other half of the horsemen. Matt, again, surprising himself, agrees, just shakes the man's hand immediately. He's like, what the fuck? Why am I doing this? Why did I just agree to do this? There goes his chance to slip away quietly. So, of course, Talmanis heads off with his men, and Matt takes command of the other half. And I like this scene as well, where he raises his spear to make a gesture from like instinct and memory that the other soldiers understand immediately and do exactly what he wanted. And they form like two rows, 2 columns at either side of him, and they start forming and like cruising up the hill to go and flank from the other side. So like he's already into it. When Matt reaches his position at the top of the hill there, he can see Talmanis is in the position across from the other hill, and he's relieved, because of course this is the first time he's meeting him. He had no idea that this dude would just actually do what he wanted anyway. He might have just ridden off and never returned, but there he is, ready to go. But of course, like you said, Moritz, half the Terran lords have decided to follow their own plan anyway, because the battle has already begun down in the valley, and half of them are running around outside the hedgehog, dying, because that is what happens when you don't follow when you're outside of the hedgehog. But most of the group sticks to the plan. The other half are actually inside. And the Terran horsemen as well have like dismounted, and they've got their horse bows, and the battle is hot, and it's going mad down there. That's where he sees the leader of the Terran horsemen, this Melanril, go down. They're taken down by the Aiel and stabbed. He screams something, but they don't hear him, and all Matt thinks is good riddance. Thank God that guy's gone. So now they got rid of what's his name, Weiramon, and this dude. So that's a good thing. This is the point now where it's time for Matt and Talmanis to do their part. Matt shouts in the old tongue, of course, that Los Cabadrin, forward horsemen, and he charges into the battle down the hill. The Aiel never see them coming until it's too late, until they start crashing into them, and then the lightning begin to fall, and then shit really starts hitting the fan, although we don't get to see it because that's where the chapter ends.
We are in it.
In it. I was, to be honest, quite bummed that when this chapter ended, and I was like, what about the battle? What about explaining in detail everything Matt does with his Ashandare and the movements of the horses? No, it just ends with, and then shit got real. The end. So anyway.
The beauty of it is that you get to craft that image in your imagination. I will do an interpretive dance to illustrate the movements.
Post the video on our YouTube channel. Stay tuned, people.
No. I was about to say, let me hit record so we can quickly make a video for the watchers on YouTube. Yeah, I mean, this battle has just like sprung up. Like it rushes up on you and like, oh fuck, we are in it.
It's
now.
more. They there. That's why they went there. Yeah. It's go get the job done. And poor Matt, he just wants to get away from it. I'll just quickly warn them. Just quickly. Yeah. And then I'll be on my horse.
Leads a cavalry charge into the Shadow Aiel.
It's like
starts ordering nobles around and then leads a cavalry charge.
It's that workaholic that I'm just gonna quickly go and do this at work.
It's gonna respond to this one email.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you could see he wants to go and warn them, but then he sees that they're a useless bunch of cunts. So he has to give them orders then. And then the orders lead to him having to deal with it and then lead one of the parts. And then there he is.
He can't sit by and let them fuck up. Like this is actually like a recurring theme for Matt, right? Like he comes to other people's rescue all the time. First the girls and then these guys, like the Aes Sedai that he saves later from like one of the, harbor cities where they've been taken to Mane. Like he's always rushing in and helping other people. And that is his ultimate irony, right? Is his whole like, I'm no bloody hero. He is constantly doing heroic shit. Like he doesn't stop being a hero. It's all he does. Yeah. And it is just so great. It makes him so endearing. I feel bad for Rand, who has not been able to sleep all night. Now, as fathers of, at one point, young children, you know what it feels like to get very little sleep, let alone no sleep the night before. And I mean, just imagine how you feel after a rough night of like dealing with crying babies and like just not getting any kind of good sleep. Okay, now lead an army in this like day-long battle. Go for it. Enjoy.
Yes.
Channel this corruptive power that is constantly trying to destroy you.
Right. It's heavy is the burden he carries on his shoulder. I mean, he's got to do it. It's good practice for what's coming.
I mean, and that's right. Like he can't sleep because he knows how many people are going to definitely die today.
Yep.
Like today, thousands of people are going to die, and it's because I brought everyone here. I did things that led to this moment.
At least he's not sulking about it. He's accepting it.
He's not.
Yeah. Look, he is.
Quick,
and we're gonna get to it. He's gonna throw lightning and bolts and kill his own people in it to achieve a goal, and that is just the nature of war. Unfortunately, it's you can't. You got to look at the bigger picture.
You hate to say it, but like it's necessary. Like it's such a terrible thing to say about it, but like in these, this fictional story in this context, I guess it was.
Yeah.
He thinks to himself, could he have done something different? Like, could I have made different decisions to not? And then he just gives up on that thought and he goes, maybe next time. Already thinking in that like time is cyclical, the wheel of time sort of sense. Like next time I'm spun out, maybe I'll do something different.
The thing that stands out for me is that Rand is doing very much the same in a pattern, ironically, what he did before he made a move in tier, before he decided what he needed to do and go to the waste in reading books and getting the knowledge. Now he's got all of these Aiel chiefs who has had not just one or two skirmishes in their lives. They've
Yeah.
been through shit. And he drew on every single bit of knowledge that he can um, to
That's true.
set a
That's a good
plan.
observation.
And
Yeah.
he had to execute his plan. And this is just the time. The only thing that they said is not happening is you're not riding into this battle with your sword. Like stuff that. This is where we, the people, draw the line. Like you are now a king, you're a
Yeah.
lord. You are not going to go. We know you can lead the pack from the front and you want to, but not happening. You've got a greater purpose that you always have to remember.
Yeah. It's a good observation because he could very easily have just listened to Roark and Bale and like those guys, right? Like, I mean, they know what they're talking about. Lan, like he's the pseudo father figure for the last couple of books. But he seeks out the glassmaker, has these telescopes made, builds a tower. These are all like, not things that people have seen before. Like he's inventing ways out of I assume his own, volition. Like he's coming up with these ideas.
I've got a theory there. You know my wild theories.
I do.
Silently,
Let's hear it.
I think Luz have already started in him. He breaks out as he starts channeling now. Like for Elena, my love, it's broken out and Rand fucking shits his pants. Like what the hell? Like okay, I've done it now, and then I've just learned how to burn a mountain level without balefire.
Yeah.
So
and I mean, he's had Luz Theron memories already, like for some time now. So maybe he does, like you said, maybe he's got even if it isn't Luz Theron addressing him, because even here, Luz Theron isn't addressing him yet. Later when Luz Theron is talking to him, Luz Theron goes, "What are you doing in my head?"
Yeah.
And Rand's like, no, you're in my head. Like that's Luz Theron hasn't acknowledged Rand as an entity yet, so he's not talking to him, he's not addressing him. But Rand has certainly had his memories, like when responding to Luz Theron's name when Matt calls him, and all that sort of stuff. But maybe he has a memory because Luz Theron was
maybe there was a tower.
battle commander himself.
Battle commander, yeah, exactly.
Maybe it's a thing he did. Find a vantage point, use a telescope, or whatever methods they use.
They probably had some digital cameras that was mounted on drones, but same, but different.
Yeah. But he also, to even build on your theory further, Phil, at least about, or your observation about Rand sort of collecting information. He's like, okay, well, Matt has exhibited some. Let's see what Matt has to say. Let's manufacture this situation where Lan can now pull some information out of Matt and see what Matt's take on the battleground and the strategy and stuff could be. So you're right, like he is employing that exact same tactic: collect as much information as possible before he acts.
He's got still not, I wouldn't say an inner conflict, but definitely an awareness that what has people become to him, things that I can use. I have to use. Matt is his best friend with Perrin for life, but what is Matt going to bring for me to this party? He got something from the Finns that is crucial right now. Yeah. And every thought that's like I need to, for lack of a better word, exploit it. I have to. That's what people becomes to him. Unfortunately, being the leader of an army that's going to take on the Dark One himself, he needs to. So, and then he's got that ace up his sleeve, a madman in his head.
What else here? So the two main members of the band that we meet here are Dared and Talmanes. And
you mean Talmanes?
Talmanes, like I used to pronounce it in my head, yes. So Talmanes is a head shorter than Matt, which is not saying a lot because Matt is kind of tall, right? He is short and wiry with the front of his head shaved and powdered. Okay, Talmanes, powdered head. He wears plain coats despite being entitled to a number of stripes, and he was at most 3 years older than Matt and looked like a coiled whip. I think someone later, I think it's even Derrid, explains that Talman is, what is he like? He gives praise when there are two moons or something like that. Like he's a very serious kind of guy. So I'm going to try and imprint that image on my mind now. Talman is that guy, not jovial like some of the other guys. They're certainly not like Estienne, who we meet as a drunken card player. But that's him. And then Derrid, he has a scarred face and a nose that has been broken more than once.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He is a commoner, not a noble. So he doesn't have the shaved head.
Yeah, as a soldier.
He still has rank, but he's come from common stock. He doesn't inherit rank because of his family. He later gains the rank of lieutenant general, third in line to command after Matt and Talmanis. So he's eventually quite high, and then it gives him the social rank of a noble, both in the band and in the eyes of those that deal with the band. While other nobles may not respect him as their social equal, still considering him a commoner, they are generally shrewd enough to respect the power he represents, power backed up by cold steel. In addition, his high rank in the band is quite likely to be a motivator to the mass of commoners that make up the band, for his rank makes it clear that ability is rewarded in the band, regardless of a man's origins, which is a cool little character addition for Derrid. So now I'm going to try and remember, okay, so he does not have a shaved head. He's a commoner, scarred face, hooked nose. Cool.
Hooked nose.
All right. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to add in there?
Oh, it's going to come out as we go because we're really in one chapter here, to be honest.
I know. And look, I know I said in the last episode that for some of these chapters, I'm going to try and really think, like, what is the purpose? Why am I reading this chapter? The things we are reading here are mostly to advance the plot. Like, this is all action. It's really those chapters where not a lot happens, where I have to look under the surface and go, why did RJ put this in front of me? What have I learned from reading this chapter? Yeah, it's pretty much set up for the battle and mostly plot advancement. So let's carry on with that plot then. In chapter 44, called The Lesser Sadness. Take it away, Vil.
All right. Now we start this first section of the chapter in Rand's perspective, and it is now 5 hours later. It's noon, and Rand has been drawing the power through the Fat Man Ungreal, and the battle has been raging. Rand at this point in time is pretty damn tired. He notes that Avienda and Egwene has started taking turns, where the one sort of has a little power nap while the other one does battle. But Rand wishes
power nap.
Power that works on so many levels. Rand wishes that he had that luxury, but there's no way he was going to let Asmodean come and join him up there.
And what the fuck did he do anyway?
Well, he could light the candle, power. I suppose.
Yeah.
Now, a sortie from the city had failed, and the eel was on the verge of getting through the city gates. And Rand realizes at this moment that if he doesn't stop the Shido there, they're going to get into the city. And that's the last thing. They don't want to fight this battle in the city. So he grabs hold of that fat man and he channels, when I say the fat man Ungreal, which is a little statue.
Yes.
And then suddenly bolts of lightning crashes in, but also into everyone. And Rand is like, how many of my own did I just kill? But the gates had to get closed. You can't. There's no way I can save everyone and win this war or this battle. So he accepts it and he carries on. And as he supervises all of that, lightning crashes down into the maidens below in front of him and into the tower. And it's all out attack on him, and the tower starts to topple. And Rand realizes at that moment all he can do is grab on the high end of the tower toppling over. With his one arm, he grabs that. And in his other arm, he scoops up both Egwene and Avienda and falls down. He hopes that the trees will soften the blow, but it's a big tower.
That's not how
Trees
trees
aren't that
work.
strong. That's not
nothing to soften the blow like a tree.
Trees are not nets. And he crashes down with a thud. He falls down and gets the wind knocked out of him. And then the two girls land on top of him. They get a nice softened blow by Rand's body. And he is out for the count. He wakes up, and as he falls as well, this rips open his never healing wound in the side where he got poked with a stick once. He wakes up then. Avienda's there over him and whispering a few sweet nothings that he can't die. He needs to lead the people and he's got purpose. And then that sweet nothings kind of like dissipates as soon as he sort of regains consciousness. Like it says, like, I don't have an intention to die right now. And then she becomes a little bit more Avienda again. She can only have that sweet tender moments when she thinks he's dead. Now Jolene is unfortunately one of the maidens that die here. Pour us about for your homies. But there are many more dying and dead. The wise ones are there tending to the wounded. Some of the ones that are burned by lightning don't even get attention because they were just burned by lightning. Yeah, she can. One looks after being burned by lightning. Now Rand at that moment thought, it's this Asmodean, but he can feel where the weave, and it's like, no, it didn't come from Asmodean. He's back in the tents that side, so he immediately is like, somehow he launched this attack. Like he's on it right away
because he feels it's Sidene.
Yeah, you can feel it Sidene. He knows it's a man that channeled at him.
Yeah.
Aviena and Egwene both are trying to restrain him and convince him that it's like, don't go riding out looking for him now. It's like, why did he wait for 5 hours before he had struck? Like he knows you're tired, like right now. Like this is, just be sensible about it. Battles aren't won in an hour or two. This is something that's probably going to have to be drawn out for a little while, or a day or two, or however long it will take. But Rand is pretty keen to seek revenge. He then decides to ride around the battlefield and help like other sorties. Like he can't just stay away. Siren brings news that the other 4 clans are on the move, which is now like, okay, this is big news, but where they're on the move to. And they're not, at the moment, not sure, but Han had sent Siren, and Han, Derek, and Aaron are going to moving forces on the Miagorma. And that Rand is like shit. If they all 4 join up with a Shido, they're outnumbered. There's nothing, like, this is, that you can just only hope that it goes the right way at this moment. Rand asks for his horse, Jaden. The maidens are really not keen to follow that order. Mist is also then ordered by Venda and said, look, if you're going, the 2 of them are coming with. Rand, it's at this point, is really just thinking like about people being useful for him. And it worries him still, but it needs to be done. Sulin then gets ordered to get a guard ready for him, but only uninjured maidens. Anyone that's as much as a scratch stays behind and gets tended to. But Sulin's like heavily bandaged already herself, which is like, no, I'm coming with. The Rand knows he's not going to be able to stop her.
Or any of the other maidens that are injured, for that matter.
But he needs to get closer to the city. She does get his party ready. Egwene at this stage is unable to sit normally on a horse, and Rand can see it. Like, she's injured, but she's acting as if nothing. And then she chirps him when he struggles to get into because he's hiding now the fact that he's ripped open his old wound again. So all of them are bloody busted up, but they're all too full of pride to admit that they've been pretty beaten up in that fall in the tower. Avienda doesn't even protest to sit on a horse with Egwene at this stage. It's like, yeah, I'll take the ride. I'm not walking this one. Rand is finding it much harder and harder to channel now, even through the Unreal. Like but the only benefit is that as soon as he starts channeling, at least he doesn't feel the pain in his body. That he can actually maintain, but he's pretty knackered. He's pretty busted up. And that's where we leave that side of the story. They basically had their fall, got themselves back together, and rejoined the party. Let's throw some more lightning bolts. Now we move back to Matt. Now it's raining because of this clouds that the girls had channeled up into the sky have also brought some rain, which is what clouds do. And Rand is
another detail I'd forgotten and sort of really try to focus on this time. So now these battles being fought are like in the rain as well, in these gullies.
It's wet in these gullies, but also saying that when Rand spotted that sortie leaving and they're not closing the gate, the quickest thing that he could channel was to use what they already created with the clouds and then strike lightning out of that clouds that was already there. I forgot to mention that. Now,
Smart.
Matt is soaked. Pips is knackered. Him and the Terran and the Cairhien forces is now not sure how they're getting out of here, but they are still going. They get news that there's 3,000 men. There's 3,000 men with Matt still at this stage. I think in the beginning they were 4,000, so they lost a quarter of their forces already. Matt is looking really for a way to get out of this fighting and just to an area that's clear because he's at this stage had they'll be going into their fourth battle now. They've already had 3 battles and none of them is really a victory. It's sort of like a walkover. They're constantly clashing, fleeing, reassessing, re-engaging type of behavior. Matt's checking through his looking glass and he is trying to find some cover, but there's not even cover because the hilltops that have had good cover are now flat surfaces that's just
Toasted.
burnt land, toasted. It's just sparse thickets, and yes, it's tough, man. He's trying to do what he knows what to do through all his memories, but not really able to finding the place or the landscape to do it in. With that, Matt gets some news from Nalcen.
Oh, yeah.
Nalcen, that there's another force of Aiel heading towards them, and they got about 30 minutes.
Joe, pause quickville. So Joe, what is your pronunciation?
Very similar. Nalesian, isn't it? Nalesian?
In my head, it was also always Nalesian, but I also thought that maybe it's Nalesian.
Nalcen sounds right to me.
Nalesian. I think we're all very close. I think we've done very well thus far.
Oh, don't worry.
It's going a lot better than I thought it would.
The tongue twist is still coming for me.
Great. Okay. Continue.
As Matt's still thinking about, okay, what am I doing about? I've got 30 minutes. The Shadow's going to be on top of me for round 4. Lightning strikes and Min goes flying. And he's like, fuck's sakes. Have you already gone crazy, Rand? Like, or did you really piss Avienda off now that she's attacking everyone? It's like, and then sort of after thinking the worst of his best mate, and then Avienda, which is going to be one of his 3 wives, he's like, fuck. And he sinks into the saddle. I can just imagine, like, fuck, Samael is here as well. All right. Well, that's to be expected. It's just the way things roll with this crowd. Matt's trying to find the log tower. He can't find it. He hasn't been able to spot the log tower for the while, and he doesn't know if he's out of sight of it or what is happening. Now, Nalcen, who's leading the Terrans, says there's about 5,000 men keeping to the valleys. So they're getting ready for their 4th battle. In Matt's opinion, The first was a draw, the second one was a draw again, and the third they were saved by the skin of their by the thickness of their skin, with the other heel bashing into the rear of the Shido. So there was a coincidental clash, and the Shido got themselves pincered and then dispersed again. So this is almost like guerrilla tactics. They're clashing and then dispersing and reassessing, and this is coming from both sides. So Matt now realizes as well he's got to use the eels fighting way against them in what they do. And he susses the landscape and he's like, okay, cool. We are up on this ravine and we've got the gully below us. Get the pikemen in the gully. Like, get all the pikemen in the gully. They're in there and they're going to come for you and we're going to have to retreat then. And let's fight their battle, this running battle. And when we retreat, we're going to shout, protect the Lord Dragon. Like, gotta get it in. And he splits the cavalry and he's like, okay, let me quickly get the names here. Talmains.
Prep yourselves.
It's going to go around the south. And Deirdre is going to do it from the north. And he's, okay, as soon as we clear that, you guys smash them in a pincer movement from the sides, because they're going to be not condensed now. They're going to be sort of stretched out, coming in this gully, going after the pikemen. And that's when they'll round and they will also then attack. This is this is the only tactics that's going to work to try and just quell these 5,000 that's on their heels. And everyone is like, cool, this is sounds like a good plan. You've gotten us this far, so let's go with Matt. And Couladin is now suspected to be in this. So he's like, Couladin is such a hothead. He's not going to avoid this temptation. If he hears,
that's why he has them shout.
Yeah, protect the Lord Dragon, he's going to come with all hell and fury. So just be ready. We're going to take these suckers out. And with that, the dice starts rattling in his head. And the goosebumps on my arms starts going. I'm like, oh, dice rattling in heads. And he boots Pix down the hill. And he's, let's do this thing. Go back to Rand. Now it's nighttime, another 6 hours later. Rand is exhausted. But we can say he's well and truly fucked at this stage. He's not thinking clearly. The pain in his side is even coming through, and the pain is coming through the void. He can see the crescent moon, and he's just trying to get to Samael, and Samael keeps baiting him with a few more attacks. He's been attacked 2, then he can't remember, is it 3 times? And then thoughts of other attacks from Luz is coming through from when he fought him at the gates of heaven at some point, which was a place from the Age of Legends. So it's pretty rough going for Rand at this moment. But he's learning new weaves all the time. So he's doing new things while he's in this state of, I'm almost going to say, confusion, because he loses grips of his own reality. And I think for many parts of this, Luz just takes control and does things, and then Rand's back like, it would be pretty confusing. But he keeps telling himself the whole time, no balefire, no balefire. Not even for Ileana. Dead straight back to Lou's thoughts. Rand at one stage can't even remember his own name. He's like, wait, what's my name? Rand Althor. Oh, yes. It's like, okay,
Just
Rand.
To tell himself, I am Rand Althor.
You clearly need a nap. Like, this is the time where you should...
A nap will sort him right down.
So there's still no conclusion to this battle between him and Samael. This is kind of like Samael is just baiting him. That's all that he's doing. Baiting. Then he wonders, where did the Grain and Aviena go to? And Sulan then says, hey, they've already gone a while back to the Wise Ones. And the maidens here are also now looking at Rand like, okay, it's maybe too much channeling for you for the day. So maybe we should take a break now. But Rand still thinks he can hear fighting in the distance. He needs to get there. He needs to get there. But the cheering that he's hearing is actually the victory. Men starting to cheer because they've actually done it. And they're like, look, the maidens saying, the Wise One wants you back there. Come now. And against all protest, they pretty much march him back to see the Wise Ones. Rand rides into the camp and he sees Moiraine is looking pretty busted up as well. Not from fighting, but from the amount of healing that she's been doing in the camp. Asmodean is even carrying water bags for the wounded and giving a hand, which is very un-Asmodean-like. Until he sees Rand and he comes running over, gives him a water bag, said, like, look, it wasn't me, it was Samael. Like,
Yeah.
just if you thought any, it's like so scared. And Rand says, yeah, no, it's the same as in the Age of Legends from Ron Moidon. But then he just like, oh, that's not my memories. So this the more tired he gets, the more loose gets into his head. But Asmodean says to him, no, like, look, I was sure you were safe, and Moiraine forced me to help and tend to the wounded. At this stage, the Wise Ones aren't ready to see Rand yet because they are still in their meeting with the other 4 clans, Wise Ones. And no one else is allowed to have a meeting until they've concluded their meeting. Rand can't even see the chiefs. They can't even have a side powwow. And Rand's like, oh, this is bullshit. I'm the Karakan. Like, now I've got to sit and wait for the woman to have their chat finish. Lan then comes over to let Rand know, hey, just relax. There's no battle to go back to. It's done. Like, it's done. Like, completely done. We've won. And Rand's like, done? And he's like, yeah, done.
It's been done for a while. We would have told you sooner, but you kept disappearing all over the battlefront.
We've been looking for an hour for you. You keep running around with your maidens. Rand then releases Saidin and he collapses completely. Like, that was just okay, cool. Final straw. He's not feeling too well. Asmodean actually then gives him a bit of healing. Just gives him a top up so that he can just get Moiraine to do the balance of the work. And that is the end of that magnificent chapter.
Yeah. Exhausting.
Yo. I like how Land catches him at the end there, like as he.
Yeah.
The only thing keeping him on that horse was the power, and as soon as he lets it go, he instantly regrets it. Like, oh shit, yeah, this is gonna happen now. Honk. And falls out of his horse.
The thing that he has not
rescuing
held on for longer than an hour. Like, truly channeling. I don't think Rand has channeled for longer than an hour in one go.
Let's think.
His battle against Ishmael in Tyr wasn't long. Hour, maybe.
What about all the stuff he was doing in the Golden Bowl, or what was it with Alcar Dal? When he was addressing the clan chiefs, and he made it rain, and then he fought Asmodean in Rhuidean straight afterwards. It also wasn't that nothing. Certainly nothing like this. Rand hasn't done anything like this. Also, I will reiterate, didn't have a good night's sleep the night before. So he was exhausted to begin the day.
That really bothers Moritz. He should have.
It really does.
What's your sleep, Moritz?
Naughty boy.
It's all his dads. He should have slept the night before, and Billy's like, he should have a nap. A nap will fix him.
Rand sees the band fighting the Aiel 3 times. That's how we know how many times Matt and the band have fought. And at one time, twice their number. So Matt and the band are fighting not little groups of Aiel that they can best, we know the fighting prowess of the Aiel, and the Shadow are no slouches. They are dogs, but they are fighters. And the band faces off against a group of Aiel twice their size at one point.
And that they'll call a draw.
No mean
in Matt's perspective,
yes.
in that chapter, he also says, like, he also kept track of how many times. Like, Matt has been instrumental, to say the least. Like, he's
the only reason they're
he's
alive.
got great, and we've seen now Estian and Nalasian, Deidrid, Talmains, all of them form a. I'm getting mad. See, I'm not that bad in this.
Who and who?
Estian.
Sorry, I wasn't listening. Say that again.
Nalasian, Deidrid, and Talmains. I'm still saying Talmains. I'm sorry. It's not Talmanes.
I won't blame you.
Apologize.
It's been Talmains for 2 decades for me.
Millenril Asangora, he kicked the bucket. He didn't make it.
Because he didn't listen to Matt, the idiot.
Yes. Yeah, he was killed in the battle. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, Matt, like, no running away. Just, I am where I should be. He doesn't want to admit it, though.
Matt says it feels like 3 or 4 days since he had made the decision to ride down and warn the Terrans. And it's like it's midday at this point, isn't it? It's like just been the morning. He still didn't know why he had done that.
It's nighttime already now.
Well, when Matt engaged with the Shido in that battle, it was, I would say, sort of late afternoon, because it starts afternoon when Rand channels to the gates that opened with a sortie that went out. It started raining after he used the clouds. Then it started pouring rain. And you jump to Matt, and Matt's soaked. So you say, okay, maybe it's been raining for an hour or two, which would make it sort of 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I think they probably had their fourth battle in the last quarter of daylight, because it would be farcical to go and run out into a battle in the darkness on foot. I don't think. Plus, Rand is the only person out in the dark, because he had to channel light to be able to see what's happening around. And I've got a bit of experience, not with channeling balls of light, but with being totally and utterly confused. As you two,
we all believe.
No, but not just general confusion or hangover confusion. You guys, I had epilepsy episodes in my younger years. The two of you would know. But waking up on the backseat of a car with white leather seats, with blood everywhere, not knowing how you got in that car and where you are, like that type of confusion. So when I would have massive epileptic episodes and fall and bust my face open and stuff like that, that's the type of confusion I envision Rand having at this stage. And he's still
he's out of it.
Out of it, bleeding. I'm not saying I'm Rand. I'm not saying I'm the Dragon Reform, but I do have these golden dragons.
I'm not saying it, but the world is kind of saying it.
To me,
other people
in my head,
who am
through
I?
other voices. But yeah, he's in no shape to be on the back of a horse, riding around in the rain, in the dark, channeling balls of light, looking for some isle. Like, it's not a tactically smart move.
You know, he's completely lost it. He's looking
when
amongst
he fell
the trees
out the
in the
trees.
Dark.
Yeah, he should have stayed there. That's where Rand should have stayed.
When the tower collapsed.
Yeah, I don't think he was at that point needed to go and do, because I mean, Matt had it under control.
Well, he didn't know. He thought Matt had scarpered.
He'd seen Matt.
Oh, he had seen Matt. Oh, okay. No, that was. Oh, yes, he had seen him from the tower
3 times. Yeah.
Okay.
Matt's in denial about wanting to fight and kill Couladin, but when he plans that last attack with the, like the guy shouting, "Protect the Lord Dragon," he stays with the infantry. He doesn't go with the cavalry. And Dared comes up to him and he goes, "Young blood runs hot. You've done very, very well here. Is it because you are aiming to kill Couladin yourself?" And Matt's like, "What? No, that's crazy. That would never be." Then Matt ends up killing Couladin. I mean, we'll get there, but I mean, that's what happens in that battle. But Matt even says to himself, "It's safer behind the pikes." That was his reason, the whole reason. So he's like convincing himself.
That's all he ever
does.
That's
why he wants to stay.
Convince himself.
Daedrus also says something very interesting there. It's like, because I can follow a man like you, just as long as that hot head is not there. Like, don't have that young hot-headedness come through. And but I mean, we all know how it ends. So
Darren says this is where he makes that quote from. He quotes Talmanes. He goes, "Talmanes gives praises when there are two moons," implying it never happens. Yet I heard him say aloud that he would follow wherever you led. So already the guys here are saying, "Fuck, this guy. We can follow this guy," which is just so delicious, knowing what happens with these guys and how this like ragtag bunch of Terran defenders of the stone and cavalry who until recently had been led by this pompous idiot, and then these like downtrodden Cairhenians who've been through the civil war and stuff and have ended up under Terran command. Like it's this real ragtag group that when they have success with Matt, just go, "Well, fuck all of our national allegiances and our jobs and our, the noble houses that we're supposed to serve. We're with Matt now." And they just follow him unquestioningly, which is amazing. And I mean, you can see why.
If you have a great general battle commander, it's not an individual that sways the course of a war or a big battle. There's individual performances in a heroic scene, but after all, you have to put men in the right areas for them to do those little individual things. And I mean, Wireman, there's no fucking way that he was going to do any of that. And he's 2IC. Well, it's just best that he didn't make it from the first battle.
Yeah. So now that's why Nalesian or Nalesian is in charge of the Terrans, right? So because old Weirman's gone and other old mate ran himself into the battle foolishly and got himself killed. So now Nalesian is in charge of the Terrans, and he hates Talmanes. The two of them square off against each other all the time, Terran and Cairhien. Nalesian, I think, is described as like a stocky, sort of jovial type, and he's the guy that I always confuse with Talmanes, who's not. Talmanes is the young guy who's only a little bit older than Matt, but with a shaved head and is like so super self-serious and like a coiled whip, like he looks tensed for action the whole time.
I'm gonna get my kids to draw me pictures of these guys, and I'm going to read to them, to Jamie specifically, and say, "This is what I want you to draw." And then I'm going to stick it up here so that I've got them, little cliff notes. Duranian. Looks like a potato. Yes. Blue eyes.
That's Estienne.
That's Estienne.
What else? I mean, we wouldn't gloss over, but there's some Rand stuff at the beginning here, like after that attack on the tower and it falls down, and Avienda is sort of like nursing Rand back to consciousness, and the sweet nothing she whispers is, one of the things she says is, "I need you, not for myself, you understand, for her."
I'll
another one of those like
to Elaine.
Yes, like those obvious like people justifying their own words and actions to themselves. Like, no, I don't mean for me. I mean for someone else. Truly,
it is
when in fact you can see straight through it.
It is very difficult to be in the midst of battle and reading, even now in my more mature years, where I want to pay attention to all of it. But you can't go throwing love kisses in the middle of little nose rubs and I need yous in the middle of battle. Let's do that after the
It breaks
battle.
it up a
I
bit.
need to focus on the battle now. It's fighting. It's a lightning time.
Well, speaking of lightning, I mean, the attack that Samael makes on them almost works, because when Rand comes, to the conclusion that it was Samael, he actually snarls, Samael, like he says it out loud, and he gets G'd up to go after him. But Egwene and Aviendha talk him down, right? Like Egwene says to him, why do you think he's waited so long? So that if he doesn't kill you and you go after him, you're weak and exhausted and you'll be easy pickings. And Aviendha chimes in, where is your honor, Rand? Is your honor chasing after this guy, or is it with these people that you have brought here from the waste? And they talk him down and he stays. And I just thought that if Rand was one of the Forsaken, he wouldn't have these people around him. It would be all ego, and like he'd be acting by himself. So like the Forsaken, they're not counting on him having these people that he trusts and he listens to around him. So like, if because they're putting themselves in his position and thinking, okay, this will work. Whereas Rand has this thing that they don't have, like loyalty and good advice from people that care about him, which is cool. Just shows that Rand needs these people that he's kept around him.
Yeah, Rand is grounded.
And continues to keep around him.
And he's grounded through the people around him. Then every now and then, Luz gets in his head, and those anchors break a bit, but it's going to get worse, so we'll get there.
Indeed.
Yeah, it really is going to get quite bad, isn't it? He does eventually recognize Samael as a distraction from what was important, and thinks to himself, okay, fine, I'll deal with him later. My last note here was, does Asmodean, when he heals Rand here, does he save Rand's life until Moraine can get to him? Does Asmodean save the world?
Yeah. This is where a separate timeline emerges, alternate reality.
Sliding doors.
Don't know.
But yeah, what a chapter.
He tried something. Whether it worked, whether it had any effect,
I gave him some healing.
Your interpretation.
You can some might call it a placebo. Either way, Rand wakes the next day.
Yeah, he gave him some paracetamol.
He sleeps well and wakes.
Yes. All right, so now with that huge battle done and dusted, let's see what happens after the storm in chapter 45. Jody.
Right on. So, we're with old Matt. Everything's finished already. Matt is sitting on a boulder, nursing all of his bruises and his cuts and his scrapes and his slashes that he got in the fight with Couladin, amongst other people, I imagine. Matt had killed Couladin eventually. His head is now on a spike. It's like, well, that's hectic. But it was close. It was a close fight. Matt's thinking Lighty was good with those things, like, holy shit. And this is another part of another battle. So you see, like, the first chapter I had, we didn't get to see the battle. Now we didn't get to see this battle either. We didn't get to see how he fought Couladin and killed him, but he did. So we just have to take his word for it.
I have thoughts on that. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, so around him, the Cairhien and the Terrans are celebrating the victory together. They are arm in arm in many cases. They're drinking the usquai and they're singing the songs and they're dancing the river dance from the way it's described, arm in arm, and they're kicking their legs. It's totally river dancing.
The
Aiel,
okay.
The Aiel are also dancing, but not singing, of course. There's none of that. Their dance, though, is more death-defying aerial acrobatics. And there's a few Terrans and Cairhenians who are nursing broken bones after trying to imitate them.
Yes.
Literally survived a battle only to break your neck dancing afterwards.
Dancing.
Trying to copy the Aiel dances. But like everyone is just happy to be alive. I mean, they just yesterday I could have died. Tomorrow I might be dead. But today I am alive, gloriously alive. Matt sees old Deirad and Estienne. They are deep into the Usquai by now. They are arm in arm with an Aielman trying to teach him to sing old Jack of the Shadows. Matt's already regretting teaching them that song because it's spreading like wildfire through the camp. Everybody's learnt it now. Everyone was already singing it before he even got back to the camp. The camp, by the way, which is right underneath where the tower was, the wooden tower that got smashed, and right back where he started on his big journey. Yeah, there he is, right back now. He thinks he's trying to think of a way out, but he's trapped for now. He gives up on those thoughts pretty quickly. And then, of course, just then, Melindra shows up. Yay, more problems to deal with. And he immediately he's like, listen, I can explain everything. And she's like, no, he totally understands, how he wanted to get out of, Rand's shadow and prove himself. And Matt's like, yeah, yeah, that's why I did it. Totally.
That's what I meant.
That's exactly what I meant. She also has brandy. Everyone's got brandy. It's more like moonshine, like 140 proof shit. But he takes a swig of it and he almost chokes to death, but he's like, fuck it. That's all that I got, so I'm going to be drinking this shit then. And she tells him, like, listen, Matt, you've gained much G by killing Couladin. She says, now I don't know if this is a misprint or because she is Shido herself, but she says that Couladin was a man of much honor, and by killing him, he gained G. I'm like, what? Couladin? Honor?
I think she means like battle honor, like through the years he was a warrior, like he had earned a lot of respect maybe as a combatant, and by Matt beating him, you earn all the experience points that he gained in his campaign, like by default you've beaten everyone that he beat.
Yeah, yes. Matt just collected all the scalps that Couladin collected by killing him.
And don't forget to eat his heart so that you can gain his courage. Yeah,
but that phrasing, Joe, is interesting, and maybe that is because she is Shido.
Isn't she a dark friend as well?
Yep,
she is.
Yeah, so you never know. They say weird shit. Anyway, Telmanis then approaches Matt. A delegation. Telmains your butt. A delegation from the city has already approached Rand. There are plans for a procession into the city, and Telmanis feels that. Listen, if anybody's going to be in this procession,
I'm sorry. What does a lion male have around his neck?
A collar.
What? No. What is that fat fur around a male lion's neck?
A gold chain.
A gold chain with a big clock on it.
No, a mane. And it's spelled M-A-N-E.
Yes, but it's not spelled T-A-L-M-A-N-E-S. Listen, I've been living in Spain too long. You got to pronounce every letter by itself. It's Talmanes in Spanish. So that's how I'm pronouncing it. So he feels, regardless, this dude, T-Man, feels that Matt and his followers have earned the place at the front of this procession. Like, if there's going to be some honor given to somebody, it's going to be given to them. Nelesian agrees with him. It's like, for once they actually agree on something. But both of them are standing there like pretending like the other guy doesn't exist, pointedly ignoring each other and talking to Matt about the same stuff. But they're like, listen, if there's going to be a procession, we should be at the front of him. You killed Couladin, like the head of this the reason we're here. It's got to be us. We've got to be in this thing. Let's go and sort stuff out. We'll get you cleaned up. We're going to go brush your horse. All fighting. They're both arguing with each other about what they could do to help him out and get him ready for this. Nelesian has a coat that Matt can use and all this kind of shit. Because he's their general. And Matt's like, what the fuck? What? General? And they both agree now that he is their leader, that they will follow him to Shyle Ghul itself. Like, listen, like, you're our battle commander. You're our general. Like, we ain't going nowhere. Like, Talmanis says that recently he's been under the command of men from other nations, and he did it because he had to, but he'll follow Matt because he wants to. Like, I think a lot of it's just self-preservation. He gets them out of situations that no one else would have got them out of. So if you're going to be under someone's command, it's him. So they continue arguing these two over who gets to prepare Matt's horse and they bring him his cloak, and then also he'll need a banner, but Matt's banner. We never find out what kind of banner it's going to be at this point. I'm sure they'll figure it out. In the background, the men are singing a new verse as well. At this point, he hears to Jack of the Shadow. They've started adapting the song, and they've got a new verse that includes Matt by name in this song. So Matt decides, like, yes, and there's so much going on here. He decides he's just gonna get wasted on the shit brandy that they've got him now. Like at the beginning of this chapter, he says he dare not get drunk, and by the end of it, he's like, fuck it. Just like halfway through the chapter, he's already wasted. I know I've skipped over a lot there. There's some other stuff that we'll talk about at the end. Then we switch over to Rand. He's waking up now after his exploits the night before. He finds that the wound in his side is closed, so he's like, oh shit, someone healed me. Avienda is there. She confirms that it was Moraine who healed him. He's surprised when she speaks because he hadn't noticed she was in the room. Just these sneaky Aiel, it doesn't matter. She's sitting next to him in a tent and she's still invisible. He remembers like what he was thinking before and what he had said as well. All those memories in his head about Luce Theron and like trying to keep control of himself and who he is. It's like, oh shit, I said some stuff previously. Asmodean is there as well. He tries to explain himself without giving himself away. There's a chapter here where he's talking about the one power and the Sidin and how it can be used and everything. And I'm reading this going, shit, didn't they just say that Avienda's in the room? He should shut the fuck up. She doesn't know who he is. But anyway, he says it enough in a way that he gets away with it. It's more of a lecture. Avienda shuts him up halfway. She's like, have you finished giving your words of wisdom? Like she thinks he's just an idiot who thinks he knows more than he does. She gives Rand a lecture afterwards, of course, about his responsibilities and the toe he has. You know the whole spiel. All our listeners know it. I'm not going to go anything. She likes giving those kind of talks.
Yeah.
They also tell him that the Wise Ones are still meeting with the Wise Ones of the 4 other undecided clans, which seems to be heading towards not so undecided. At this point, I kind of get the feeling like these clans are not against them, but they're not all for them at the moment either. It's still wishy-washy. I don't know if you guys got that as well. It's not really decided right here. So Rand's like...
It's hard to divorce it from what we know happens later, that they do join, so I think you're supposed to be left wondering, like, how's it going to go? But we know, so that tension is gone.
Yeah, so the Wise Ones are still, Rand's Wise Ones. I say Rand's. That's by no way implying possession or control of any kind
It's
or
loyalists.
influence. I don't know. Any connection whatsoever. Are talking with the undecided clans Wise Ones, so that's still in process. Rand wants to know what's going on. He's like, what are they talking about? But he wasn't invited. The Wise Ones do not care what he thinks. It's Wise Ones' business. And he must just shut up and wait like the rest of the group. Egwene is at the meeting, though. Moraine had been invited originally because she was the Aes Sedai and they wanted her there. But she was like, nah, she's not interested. Pass. She could say no to the Wise Ones. So they went and woke up Egwene and dragged her out of her tent and brought her to this meeting, kicking and screaming. Avienda thinks it's hysterical, and while she's telling the story, she kind of doubles over in laughter for a couple of minutes. So, like, the whole story has to stop while she tries to explain what's happening through her giggles. She tells him at this point, this is where Rand learns that Matt killed Couladin, and he's like, "What? I fell asleep, and what happened?" And then he also thinks to himself, like, "Shit, poor guy, he didn't manage to escape the pull of Taviran after all. Maybe it was the pattern or whatever, but in the end, he's still here. He must be pissed." And yes, he is. Asmodean as well, as a little moment here. He's he's already impressed with Rand, and now with Matt, and he's like, I can't wait to meet this Perrin guy because he must be fucking amazing. The 3 of you are just something. Rand wants to go after Samael. He's like, I need to get vengeance for every single maiden that I was not able to protect because of this bastard. But of course, he is not so hot-headed anymore. Things have cooled down. He knows he wants to do it, but of course, he has other responsibilities at the moment. Cairhien demands his attention. So he needs to get to the city to see if old Malin is still alive, the guy he put in charge. And he's like, all right, Asmodean, go get my horse ready for me. I need to go. And Avienna's like, well, you're not going anywhere, bro. You can't even stand up. And there is a point, where he tries to stand up, but his legs don't listen to him. But he's always trying to hide it and pretend that he's fine. Like, no, I'm fine. Asmodean tells him, like, no, listen, you don't have to go and find out about Malin. He's already been here. He came to the camp, I think this was like early in the morning or something, with 6 other Tarian lords. One of them was Taurian as well. He was there. And they were full of flowery words and praise and all loyalty to the Dragon Reborn. But the wise ones would not let them get through, and the maidens as well. They just made a wall, and this caused quite a thing. They were ready to fight their way through to get to Rand, but eventually, fucking
Did not learn anything in the last day.
No, nothing at all.
Actually, did they not learn anything when just a few Aiel took the stone?
Yes. Wasn't it like 40 guys? Yeah. No, they left. They learned nothing. They're morons. We get it, RJ. These guys are morons. But eventually they decided they're going to turn back. All right, it's not worth the bloodshed. Just to go and speak to Rand, they can wait. But before they left, Malin shouted back over his shoulder that he makes a gift of Cairhien to Rand. But Rand immediately sees through this, like straight away. It's like, it's not his to gift. It's mine. I liberated the city. I put you in charge. It's already my city. There's a couple of old quotes there that he mentions. I can't remember them now. I didn't write them down, but I'm sure Moritz has them written down.
I don't think so.
No, I'll have to read them up after this. Then, while you're busy talking, I'll find them. So, okay. After Malin, a bunch of other lords came to visit, the Cairhien lords. They also came to say hi, and they were desperate to speak with Rand. Eventually, even resorting to open begging in the end to go and see him. So they came after the Tarians. I suppose they've come to really, lay their seeds of their game of houses and whatnot to try and get their fair share of the pie. Sorelia threatened to have them stripped and flogged if they didn't leave immediately. And actually, at one point, some of the lords talked amongst themselves about accepting that punishment if it would get them closer to Rand. Like, oh man, maybe we should let them do it, And I thought to myself, like, poor fools don't know who they're messing with. Like, if you had spent 5 minutes with Sorelia, you would have run the other way immediately. But
that
anyway,
was Sorelia giving you an easy way out.
Yes, take it, run, no, go now. But eventually, it never came to that, and they also left. So everybody's been coming. Amongst that group was Dobrain. We remember him, and Colavier was the lady Colavier as well. They managed to get a hold of Asmodean eventually when they figured that he wasn't a Tarian or a Terran or whatever you call it, and immediately started playing the game of houses with him. They tried to, like Asmodean says, like, I'm pretty sure this is what they were trying to tell me, but it was so laced with innuendo and subtext that I'm not actually sure what conversation we had. But they offered the throne to Rand as well. Again, it's already his. It's not yours anymore. But Rand tells him, like, no, he intends it for someone who none of them will expect, and leaves it at that. Because while he has Asmodean around him, he doesn't trust this guy. It's better to just keep these secrets to himself. We all know who he means, but everyone else, not even Avienda in the tent, knows who he means. So there's a bit more talking back and forth with Avienda and Asmodean about what he should do and where he should go next, and until he realizes that Avienda is just trying to stall him in the tent to get him from leaving. At which point he orders Asmodean to go get his horse, and he will go do everything himself. And that's the end of that chapter. I'm going to look up those lines.
I thought the Aiel dance, like jumping in the air and the kicking, was like a Zulu dance.
Yes, totally has to be. But I'm thinking a bit more, because at some point they get up and they do spins as round.
And backflips.
So yeah. Similar, but taken to the extreme. The fantasy version of that.
I also like that Darid and Estienne are the two, like the Cairhien and the Terrans, that are sort of like teaching that other Aiel warrior the song Jack of the Shadows.
Yeah.
Because Dared is the commoner soldier with rank, and Estienne is a High Lord of Tyr's son. So it's like a commoner and a noble, like the worst of the worst nobles.
Yes.
That caste. But Estienne, he's with the band from here on out now. So I think he sort of redeems himself despite being one of the High Lords or like a lordling from Tyr. It was just cool to see that combo together. Then again, Estienne always been partial to a bit of the drink. So it probably didn't take much convincing for him to get festive.
It was at that when Matt played cards with them during that period in Tyr, where they were so just talking utter crap of peasants and poor people, like just really nose in the air type of shit. Where Matt even was like, "God, like I don't know if playing cards and taking their money is worth sitting here listening to the shit that they talk." So interesting that his character is also evolving and getting a bit of a better character arc. I mean, we know how legendary the band gets.
Yeah, Estienne was also one of the nobles that meets up with Rand and the Aiel before they've reached Cairhien. So after they've come through Jangai Pass and Rand sitting on that bridge, sort of just trying to have a moment to himself, and some Cairhien and Terran nobles, they make that wager about whether they can make it to Cairhien within 7 days or not. Estienne is one of them. He's there as well. So that's why Estienne also is not one of the guys that's clapping other guys on the back when the battle is coming, because Estienne had seen fighting already.
Yeah.
He's having this sort of like sobering character arc. Like he's not the drunken idiot and just son of High Lord Torian. If you remember, High Lord Torian is the guy that grabbed Berylane in the corridor and sort of accosted her. So like his family is tainted by being a Terran High Lord and, like in the eyes of the reader, despised. High Lord Melan, the one that's sort of quote unquote gifting the throne to Rand, he was one of the High Lords that meets Rand in the Stone of Tyr and resists Rand's lowering of taxes. When Rand says, we'll lower the taxes for the peasants, he's there when Rand throws the treaty back in the other guy's arms and sets it on fire.
Do better.
He's one of those dudes. A real fucking ass.
Malin's got a lot of Rand resentment. He carries quite a bit.
We'll see it in the next chapter as well. Also, just like shitty attitude and like such thinly veiled acts of piety, and it's gross. But we'll get to that.
Rand thinks here as well, like he maybe should have, executed him, but if he had to execute all the Terran lords that went against him, there'd be none left. He'd have to execute all of them.
Yes. That's something that's standing out. I think we've said it before, like when the team was actually in Tyr, just like how reprehensible the Terran High Lords actually are. Like I don't remember them I mean, because you kind of paint all the nobility with the same brush, but the Terrans especially seem awful human beings, almost to a man.
The line there that when he hears that he was gifted the throne by Melan was, the fox often offers to give the duck its pond. I was like, yes, that is an old saying. And what's the other one? The louder a man tells you he's honest, the harder you must hold on to your purse.
Yes.
And Asmodean also here kind of like flinches when he says that. He was like, oh yeah, that probably applies to you too, you fucker. Yeah.
All right. Anything else before we do our last chapter?
Nope.
Should we get to the politicking? All the fun stuff is over.
Or was the fun stuff just beginning?
All right. Chapter 46 is called Other Battles, Other Weapons.
Other battles, referring to the fight is not over, but other weapons. Dies the martyr, baby.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Now, we are in Rand's perspective, and he's still trying to get his clothes. Bienda is to the point where, like, well, if you can find your clothes and dress yourself, then you can go. and she sits down. But she's sniggering into a cup of wine as well at the same time. Rand finds eventually a rolled up carpet then he sees his belt buckle and he's like, okay, cool. My sword's in there. That's why it's rolled up. Um, Avienda's not stoked with the sword idea. It's like that thing that he's trying to put on his body.
That she gave him.
That she gave him, yes, only to level the scores. Other politicking going on there. Let's not dive into
other
that
battles,
right
other
now.
weapons.
That's also other battles and other weapons. Yeah. She tells him, well, if the Cairhien is so holy and about all other men, he should be able to walk naked to this meeting. It's but now while Rand is now hopping around the room with his junk out, she just sits and has a little bit of a look, and she
I think he's
says
got a blanket around him.
Yeah, he's trying to hold the
does
blanket
he?
around him.
He's trying to,
He does.
but she's like, no, she's allowed to look. You know, you are promised to Elaine, but she doesn't own the sight of you. It's like
Yeah.
Bold.
bold. Now, at this, they're really actually starting to argue like a married couple here. They might as well just tie the knot and get it done with by now. She, as I mentioned, is really disgusted with him wearing his sword. And basically, you no longer need that. Couladin's dead now. It's like there's no need for you to have that. Now, Rand spots his coat sleeve underneath her bum. So she took a seat on his clothes to hide it. But he eventually gets his clothes from underneath her. He gets himself shaved and dressed, and she's even kind enough to heat his shaving and wash water for him with a power, but only after the fourth time of him whinging about it. And this is the point where she mentions him that Elaine will not mind if I look at you, Randall Thor. She does not own the sight of you. So getting quite honest there. The maidens take their cue after Avienda now approving things. So Rand is dressed and ready. He wants his horse. He wants to go. And he instructs the maidens like, this is my plan. And they don't look at him. They look at her for her to give the nod of the head. It's like, okay, who's wearing the pants now here? Is Avienda now wearing? Is the maidens now showing loyalty to Avienda? Yes, you are the Cairhien, but Avienda is the roof mistress. You know.
In that tent that they're in, she is the roof mistress. So
that's
technically speaking,
pretty technically spot on, I suppose. So yeah, my note there is that they are now married for sure, man. Like it's when she starts calling the shots, the marriage is there. Asmodean then returns riding his mule. You'd think that he'd get better transport, but he's still on his mule. And he had time to go and don a green outfit with cuff and lace and all the rest. He looks like he's just walked out of a showroom. And they start this procession through. Now we meet Peven. Peven is taken to being Rand's bannerman now, as Asmodean really doesn't like carrying that banner much. Peven has got a massive scar across his face, and he has lost every single one of his family members, daughters and sons. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but from the little bit of discussion that Rand had with him, or information that Rand got out of him, he's pretty much summarized that the man has got 3 beliefs left. He believes the dragon has been reborn, that the last battle is coming, and if he stays close to Rand, he will have vengeance for his loss. So these last son was killed in this battles for Cairhien. As Rand marches through this camp, he is really taken by how many Shido. Like it's one thing hearing, we got 20,000 prisoners, but seeing 20,000 Shido, and all of them have just accepted they guys shine now. Like that.
Yeah.
That's and making Rand question. Like, okay, we couldn't trust them to follow tradition and custom when he came out of Viridian, but should we trust them now to follow tradition in the law of becoming Gashain? So it still leaves a question there, but then he sees one Gashain in white tending to 20 to 30 of these Shido prisoners that were taken, and the bidding is being done. It's all falling in line. Now, what Rand notices in this walk to Cairhien is that there are a lot of Gaishain as well, and Nahil, that have taken to wearing a scarlet headband, some on the arm, but most on the head. And some of them have drawn or even embroidered the white and yellow teardrops. And they now call them Siswaiman, which is the spear of the dragon. The name implies ownership, which creates quite a bit of inner conflict for Rand. Avienda is being questioned on this, but she herself doesn't know exactly where to stand on this. When she pried with the wise one, she got a good couple of words out of them to mind her own business. But she does let Rand in on that some of the Aiel now believe that they are destined to die in battle for Rand as their atonement for their sins of the past. Some of them believe that they are living in Rand's dream now, that life is
Yeah.
already over. So it's this.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, suppose like cool. We're in this dream. We're just doing what we need to do. And the wise ones believe that what must be will be. So pick what you want to choose there. You are there to die, or you're living in someone's dream until you die, or what must be will be.
Well, the Aiel already believe that life is a dream, right?
Mm,
When they talk about dying, they talk about waking from the dream. Now
yeah.
those guys are thinking, oh, it's Rand's dream that we're
Mm.
in.
Specifically,
Like
yeah.
more defined
Yeah.
in now.
Yeah.
Okay, they pass by Kadiri's wagons. Fat man still wiping his face, sweating, because yet again Moraine's there, tending to the wagon with the door frame, making sure that it's in the right
She's
place.
obsessed, eh?
She's pretty much obsessed. Now Rand thinks like, okay, cool. I'm heading into your hometown. I'd expect that you'd probably want to be on the horse next to me to give me. And she's like, nah, not interested. She's not interested in the Wise Ones meetings now. She's not interested in Rand's meetings now. She's like,
Mm-hmm.
I've got bigger things to prepare for. Let's go make sure that door
Yep.
frame is in the right spot. So, but Rand also thinks at this stage that he is very happy for all the time that she had been drumming into his head about the game of houses. He already knows what he's up for. So, partly as well that the good information that Asmodean gave him, like who came to see him and what they did and what they wanted and how it went down. Avienda thinking, oh, it's quite funny that they were chased out, but he's seeing Rand is like, okay, cool. I can see where this is going. He's got a better um, idea of what he's walking into. As he passes now eventually out of the camp into the city, he gets to a familiar sight that's not familiar anymore, which is the Foregate, which is now just reduced to nothing ash and black,
Mm-hmm.
vultures and crows feeding on corpses. It was a pretty grim thing, but a civil war and civil unrest followed by an Aiel war it makes for a pretty bleak picture. Um, After passing through the Foregate area, he eventually gets close now inside of the city itself, and he notices that there are a lot of dragon banners and a lot of Terran banners, but there ain't
Mm-hmm.
no Suntrain banners. This like, okay, was this a total takeover that happened here? But he notices it
Fucking
and
Melan.
yeah, moves on. as he gets to the gates, the officers shit their pants that's guarding the gates, because here comes a procession of Ahil maidens. Like, oh shit, should we fire? Should we stop? What should we do? But luckily, realizing that there's the dragon banner, and then they shout out, "Make way for the Lord Dragon!"
They're lucky because it's not the dragon banner; it's the banner of light. It's the Aes Sedai symbol.
Oh yes, you're right. That's right. It's got the Aes Sedai banner. Rand riding then into the city, which and we know he's been there before, except it is now, instead of being the four gate keeping all the riffraff and the busyness and the bustle and the peasantry on the outside, all of that is now moved to the inside of the walls. So the beautiful terraces is filled with refugees. It's looking pretty grim, but all of these people now just in awe at the sight that this is the Lord Dragon. So all of them cheering for Rand, majority of them mistaking Asmodean riding his ass, I mean his donkey, I mean his mule, uh, for the Lord, because he's so lordly dressed. But either which way, all of them will be going home with a story that they touched the Lord Dragon, even though if they were in the back of the crowd, they'll tell it. Rand is then sort of, when they get up to the Bronze Gates, of sort of the uh, inner city or courtyard area of the palaces and royalty area. What would you call that?
Inner city.
Court.
It's a huge like ramp leading up to it,
up
right? Like there's
Bronze Gates.
Yeah.
So High Lord Melan meets him there. Obviously, oh, you surprised us, but he knew. So he'd rallied his entourage and let his people that he's got fingers in pies with know, um, and said, sorry for the mess. It would have been a much better sort of reception if he had known that he was coming. And Rand's like, nah, the reception back there was just fine. And he's kind of like shocked.
He says, I must apologize for the peasants. Fuck off. You already know what Rand's opinion of peasants are.
I take offense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yes, at this stage, it's only the Terran nobles that meets Rand in the courtyard there. Yeah. So Rand gets off his horse. He doesn't help Avienda off because he's scared that he's so weak that they'll both fall. So he just leaves her to do her own thing, and then proceeds to warmly greet in a certain way every single one of them, but differently, from a warm handshake to a nod to a tap on the back to whatever it is. Each one of these nobles get different treatment.
Aren't there a couple that he doesn't greet warmly, that he just gives sort of like a look to? Like he pointedly, it's specifically not everyone. It's most of them and some not. So now he's making them think, is it because he is actually mad, or is that a cover because he actually favors those guys? And the ones that he greeted warmly, like now you can see their minds are racing already.
He's thrown them off balance completely just by greeting them.
And he's taking pleasure in it. He doesn't even have a specific goal. He's just like, thanks Tom, thanks Moraine for like the coaching and stuff. Like, I'm going to sow some seeds here just to keep them off balance, so that because he knows that a lot of them are already plotting, and now whatever he's thrown in the mix here will upset whatever plots any of them have together, because now they're all second guessing everything that they know.
Are you double back? It's like being in Survivor. It's just Survivor all over again.
Yes.
The only two that Rand really recognizes Edorian and Raymond. But for the rest, they're just tyrant lords. Now Rand can already see Milan is got total contempt and hatred in his eyes. He can read it completely, because Rand took away all his power when he was in Tyr, and he wants the Sun Throne. So, but Rand is gonna not give it to you. Not gonna happen.
No, man.
No.
Rand then saying, "Okay, cool, let's do this thing. Let's go inside." Also instructs that no, the maidens will lead us in to the court, which works way better than any other soldier because everyone clears way for the maidens, and the Terrans are just looking at each other like, "What the hell?" Like they don't have any control over this guy. There's no control. He's gonna do what he's gonna do, and they're gonna obey. Um, I'm saying my note here is Rand is playing Game of Houses like a pro. Yes.
It is, because Malin also here, he says to Rand, it's because they've got such a reputation for savagery that the people step out of the way for the Aiel. And then Rand doesn't respond. And then Malin immediately looks confused. He's like, oh, fuck. Why is he not, like, he still doesn't get it.
No, he doesn't. He'll never get it. It's just...
No.
What is Rand's intentions here?
Now that Rand is moving in with the Terrans, the cheers dried up. Like, the Cairhien people just like, no cheers for these guys.
No.
As they get in, and some Cairhien servants come with towels and bowls for them to sort of freshen up and all of that. Sorry, this is where Rand dismounts. So he was still on the horse the whole time. All the other High Lords had come to greet Rand. Whew! There we go. Guam? Spelt like Guam, but not quite a Guam. Simon, Maracon, Hearn, and Arakam. See, those I got good. Guam, I'm not so sure of. Yeah.
Unimportant.
Rand then meets all the balance of this lords, and he just shifts his focus, and he plays the game. He's now fully in it. Avienda at this moment is just staring in wonder because she doesn't really know what is actually happening, but just open mouth staring pretty much at it. Rand shouts at everyone, inside, instruction. Not, oh, shall we go inside for high tea? He just commands all of them inside, and the maidens and Abienda stick close to him and around him. And he's got a smaller party of maidens now, sort of an honor guard, taking him in. He enters the hall where the Terrans are grouped all together in the front, and all the Cairhien lords and high nobles are at the back in a corner. And he's like, he just looks at this and he's like, no, I don't like this. Can you please, all of you, rearrange yourself by status? It doesn't matter where you're from. So they do that, except now there's just 3 feet between them, and they're all sort of in 2 columns, filling up the hall with you can envision sort of a center row that's open. Like, they do not like each other. They don't want to stand close to each other. They obviously expected Rand to take the Sun Throne, to go and sit on the throne. And he's like, nah, I've just had a battle. Like, I'm sore. Can I please have a comfortable chair to sit on? Plus, that is intended for someone else. So already there's like, he's already made a decision. So who? So geez, these people's heads are spinning at the moment. Many worried glances. You can imagine them saying, just like, who's it? Who's this meant for? Rand sits down. He puts his spear on his knee, and he then instructs them all to file up according to rank. Then starts asking about the banners, and he's like, I see a lot of dragon banners. I see a lot of Terran banners. I don't believe I need that many banners. Can all but one of the dragon banners be removed? I will have my banner on the highest tower of the city, and every other dragon banner can be replaced with Cairhien banners. And then you can imagine that all going like, it was scandalous. They were there to feed them and liberate them from their civil war, and now Rand just comes and places them back up high. So they're very unhappy. I'm seeing their power being stripped away. So at this stage, the nobles from both the nations then, in rank, start coming forward to swear their allegiance and fealty to Rand, starting by Malin, and then
Mm-hmm.
followed by Lady Collivier, and then
Mm-hmm.
Torian, then Dorian, Aracombe, and so on every time, from a Terran to a Cairhien, to a Terran to a Cairhien. And while this all keeps going down, all that Rand can think about is what is his next step to get Samael. And that is the end of that chapter.
Was Dobrain in there?
Dobrain Tarbowen is the high seat of the house Tarbowen and the highest ranking Cairhien lord. So he must be in there because I typed this out. So maybe I misspelled Dorain. It should have been Dobrain because it would make sense if he went next to Torian. So it would have been Milan, Collivier, Torian, Dobrain. Yeah. So I just misspelled it because I typed all of this out.
Because
So
it was
yes.
also just Torian, then your dyslexia made Dobrain and Torian into Dorian.
Yeah.
Oh, you
that
said
happens.
Dorian. I just thought it was in some other dude. I had lost track of so many.
I sound like I'm making a point, but Dobrain is actually a guy that I had often remembered as a member of the Band of the Red Hand.
No, he's not.
He's nowhere near it.
No.
He's Cairhien. He's also got the front of his head shaved, which I think I've confused with Talmanes. But Dobrain his hair is grey, but he's a noble. He's the highest ranking noble there, other than Lady Covelier. And he also powders his forehead, and he has the half-shaven head and stuff. And this time around, I'm going to keep those two characters distinct. Talmanes, Dobrain. Dobrain is a noble. He sticks around. Talmanes is a soldier.
Yeah, I had to make myself a whole heap of list of these characters. Melan.
He's a shitload
of it. We've got Edorian Celona, Raimon, who's a Terran.
I feel like Edorian is also someone you read about a lot.
While looking for help in Cairhien, when the Shido attack, he finds Rand off all the rest of the hill. He makes a wager with Rand that he will not make it to Cairhien to stop the Shido in 7 days. Later, he's part of the escort that greets Randolph Hall when he enters Cairhien after the battle with the Shido, and he's no longer so plump, obviously.
He later joins the Band of the Red Hand.
I think he does.
There we go.
Raymond is a Terran. Yes. Later, he is part of the escort that greets Rand when he enters the city after the battle with the Shido. Guam, Yam. What the hell? I don't
Guan,
know.
you are a yam. Is that?
He is one of the Terrans that sent to Tyr to restore order after the battle with the Shido. Guam, along with the High Lords Aracom, Hearn, Maracon, Simon, and Torian, swore fealty to Rand. Simon is a High Lord of Tyr. Maracon is a Terran Lord. He was sent with the army of Tyr to restore order, so the same thing. Hearn is also a High Lord of Tyr. Aracom, High Lord of Tyr. Lady Collivier Shaigan was the highest ranking noble in Cairhien, following the death of Galadriel Raitan and Balthanes Domandred, after which she briefly ruled as queen. She was the high seat of the house Saigon. Dobrain Tarbowen is the high seat of the house Tarbowen and the highest ranking Cairhien lord. So those are the power players, I'd say.
Edorian that we read about, he's a guy we read. Only some of these guys do we read of in any kind of sort of significance later on. Edorian is actually, he joins the Band of the Red Hand. So he's with Matt. He's there when they rescue Olva later. So he's around. He's in the mix. Dobrain is a guy that Rand trusts. And Rand actually puts him, I think, in charge of Cairhien at some point, because when he leaves here, he puts Lady Covelier in charge. But when Rand is kidnapped by the delegation from the White Tower, she starts dealing directly with the tower, and after Rand escapes again, he finds out about it. Berylane finds evidence of her crimes against Rand. She basically she backstabs Rand, and instead of hanging her, Rand sends her to work like a penance on one of Dobrain's farms or something, and she hangs herself rather than face that kind of
humiliation.
What do you say? Disgrace and humiliation. Yeah. So all those names do come up at times. I remember Saman and Maricon from Tyr when Rand sent them away, but I don't think they really play much of a role later. Could be wrong, obviously.
One of the things that I said when we started this, and when we got to it was the book 2, The Hunt for the Horn, when they get to Cape Town for the first time. Like, this is the key I want to pay attention to now, is this game of houses. Like, this is also why now you got to understand these players and who they are and how high they are. It's just a pity they couldn't be called Peter and Sam and Joseph and whatever. So you can actually have a name to a face that makes it a little bit easier, other than someone that sounds like a country in South America or a everyday vegetable combined.
And I mean, in these 2 chapters now, we've also just been drinking from the fire hose, right? Like, we've just been blasted with a bunch of names that we're expected to keep track of for books and books and books, so we'll just keep checking in with each other and like, who's this guy again? What does he do again? And I'll try and, like, whenever we read about them and it's been a while, try and have like just a little refresher. Remember they said this or they did that.
Righto.
Yeah, Malin just being a complete douche in this chapter, right?
I think that Rand, or Malin, sorry, thinks that he can play high noble peasant jokes with Rand and he's going to laugh at it. And
but
he just doesn't
since we've
get
met him, and he hasn't gotten, like, Rand berated him for treating the peasants badly back in Tyr before leaving the stone to go to the waste.
You're not gonna change this. He's like someone that is just so deep set in the. So many people come to mind when I bring this up. I mean, gosh, who could I think? But they're just so deep set in their ways that it is just unable to change their horrible nature. Like, just
when they enter that hall with all, I think it's where all the nobles are, there are cheers that go up, glory to the Lord Dragon and the High Lord Malan.
And he acts
and then Malan has the temerity to pretend like, what a surprise. I could never have seen this coming. I mean, that's so transparent.
Oh.
Yeah.
To everyone except Malan.
There's a point
idiot
when Rand considered hanging all of them in Tyr.
Yes.
Yes.
I think he made a mistake by keeping them all alive.
Sure.
Another thing I read about Cavalier that I have in my notes here is, after the battle with the Shadow Aiel in Cairhien, she swears fealty to Rand, and then she tries to find a bed partner for Rand, but was strongly discouraged by Avienda, who gave her a beating.
Beating equals strong discouragement. All right.
The highest noble house in Cairhien at the time, Avienda beats her up.
Hey. She is bedding the Cairhien, the Dragon Reborn.
She is not bedding. She has bedded.
She has bedded
at this point. Is once. Not continuously bedding. No,
but that doesn't mean anyone else is going to get a chance except Elaine
and Min.
No, and Min.
She doesn't know about Min yet.
All right.
Avienda does have a couple cool little things here. She says to Rand in the beginning of this chapter, if you can cast your mind that far back, if I can remember G-Ito, so can you. And Rand thinks, that is a crazy thing to say. Why would Avienda ever forget G-Ito? Is she sort of referring to her toe towards Elaine? Must be, right?
Yeah. I think she has to constantly remind herself, because she just wants to jump Rand's bones like every moment of every day.
Yes.
So she's like, G-Ito, focus, Avienda.
And then when she gives him stick about carrying the sword, Rand thinks to himself, did Lan tell her about his intent with the sword? Because remember, Lan and Rand had that conversation where Lan said to him, don't try and fight Culloden with the sword. As he thinks, did Lan tell her about his intent with the sword? She says to him, nobody told me, if that's what you're thinking. Yeah. I know you now, Rand al'Thor. I learn you more every day. She's got him completely pegged. Like she is in his head.
There's not a lot of room in there.
The power shift now is it is immense. Like all of a sudden, like she is next to Rand through this battle, every step of the way, except to the point where, like, look, he's going to fall off his horse now any moment. It's going to go meet with his wise ones, get him to summon him so that he can come back home. But he opens his eyes, she's there. He goes to sleep, she's there. The maidens now look at her first to get the nod of approval to do what Rand says they must do. Like it's she really is the roof mistress. She has become the roof mistress.
And even the wise ones, I think it's in the previous chapter, say to her they trust her judgment, whatever she thinks she should. In with regards to Rand, they like follow your own judgment. We're not going to tell you what to do anymore. But then in this chapter, Rand says to Avienda also in that exchange, I suspect that Soralia believes I should have my ears boxed. And her response is something along the lines of, like, they believe many things I wish they did not. And Rand thinks, oh, so she doesn't think he needs his ears boxed. Okay, cool. That's a nice change. But she's talking about, like, what the wise ones believe her role in Rand's life should be. But as always, Rand completely oblivious to the actual point she's making.
Nothing new there.
Nope. What else did I have here? Rand makes a comment to himself with regards to Moraine that he best be as wary of her as Asmodean, one of the Forsaken. Yikes. But then he does go on to say all the things that Willie said before, like he actually wishes that she would come to Cairhien with him and be there. Like he in fact, his words are, he wishes she was there to whisper in his ear.
Yeah.
The very thing that he's been sort of like pushing back against this whole time.
Yeah, like he's trusting her more and more and more now. Like he's wishing she were there. He's been fighting it the whole time, and now he's wishing he was there.
And now
she's going. Now he's going to lose her for 6 books.
I wonder how much of her resistance for coming into Cairhien is, fussing over the wagon with the doorway, and the fact that Cairhien wanted to prop her up as queen.
Yeah.
Like she was supposed to be, a major player in their political game. And maybe she thought like her presence would distract too much from Rand.
Possibly. I mean, that would like rather back out of all of that because if she was, okay, look, she would probably not do it. But if she was going in there, and knowing that she's going to leave against her will and as part of the pattern very soon, it's no point for her to get involved. It's just gonna
and also what would people think if she disappears? If she's at his side and then she goes away and he doesn't say anything about it, maybe people would think that he had killed her or something along those lines.
Well, I mean, the hunting accidents happen the whole time in this book.
Oh yeah.
Tom is not around, so
unfortunately. This chapter, the very, very ending of this chapter is actually quite chilling because as these high lords and ladies are swearing fealty to Rand, I think there's a line that goes along the lines of, he could not see the cold light burning in his own eyes. Like they all of a sudden just sort of kind of fall in line because he doesn't even notice, but they can see like, oh shit, better not fuck with this guy.
Yeah, because his mind is already going in another place, and he doesn't realize the expression on his face, and it's cold and calculating, and everybody's like, oh fuck, what did we do wrong? Just swear fealty and get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, fall in line.
Yeah,
or else.
These high lords some of them have got their heads so far up their own asses that do they realize what is sitting in front of them? A man that can channel, that has now bested some Forsaken, that has just taken Tyr, rounded the heel, destroyed the rebel, and just moving on. Next stop, Ilian. Heck.
I think the Cairhenians kind of get it because they are very, very sort of like reserved in these things. The Terrans have gotten too used to the presence of Rand when he was in the stone and stuff. Like they started trying to, cajole him into positions and manipulate him and like plot behind his back and that sort of thing. And he hasn't hung any of them yet. But I think they are getting a bit big for their boots.
Yeah, I think they needs to hang some of them now. I mean,
it's time for hanging.
think about what happened since the last time Rand was in Cairhien. He was just invited to these parties and this and that, and just this young lad that the girls wanted to accost.
And then he went to a party and Barthanas got turned into red soup.
Yes.
And then all hell broke loose.
Yes. And the granaries was on fire and they disappeared.
Yeah.
It's and now he walks back with an army of multiple thousands.
Quote unquote savages.
Savages.
From beyond the spine of the world. Okay. Is there anything else you guys wanted to add to that last chapter?
No, I think we can wrap it up.
All right, then. Let's see. Favorite moment? What could it be?
So
Jody?
many. I don't know what to say. These chapters had a lot of Matt in it. So I went for a Rand moment. Or did everybody... Yes, or did everybody think everyone else is going to go Matt and win Matt? No, okay. I am going for, I don't know if I'm stealing Billy's here, when Rand meets those lords right now in this chapter, and he shakes one of their hands.
You are stealing mine.
Warmly. Stares at, I've got it open here.
Honorable mention.
No, I absolutely love it. I've got it open here, so I'll just read it. Rand clasped Torian's pudgy hand warmly and clapped Gwayam on the point of his thick shoulder, returned Hearn's smile with one warm enough for a close companion, and nodded silently to Aracom with a seemingly significant glance. Simon and Maracon all but ignored after one look as flat as cool as deep winter pond for each. And then hey guys, how's it going? Hug you, shake your hand, and then just look at these other two like, you fuckers. With no plan. He's not doing this for any other reason, just to throw them off balance. And then work done.
So
all of your months of planning down the toilet.
In one fell swoop with just some greetings.
I loved it.
Yeah, no,
Sorry,
it's my honorable mention.
Villy's looking at me. Villy's giving me one of those winter pool stares now.
Now I've got. I decided to off balance throw you guys off balance with my honorable mention going completely the opposite way into some Aiel humor. Avienda laughing out loud at Egwene that's summoned to go to the wise ones because she can't attend the meeting, so Egwene has to fill in. But she's obviously deary cockmoog and saying the wise ones will make you dig a hole with your teeth.
Is that the joke? When she's laughing, it takes her a couple minutes to actually calm down to be able to speak again. And after that, she's still kind of chuckling into a whine as she's thinking about this funny joke that she made. It was a good one.
Yeah, she was trying to convince, because Egwene didn't know what was going on, and Yenda was trying to convince her that she's in trouble, and then she went begging to Sorelia not to punish her, even though she didn't know what she did wrong, until Sorelia was like, wait, did you do something wrong? Why are you so worried? What did you do? You see, it is funny.
So good.
We all understand Aiel humor now, so.
I'm going to take the easy one then. My favorite moment is Matt earning the trust of the soldiers he's leading and the formation of the Band of the Red Hand, all the way from Matt just going down and having that chat in the beginning, all the way to killing Couladin, which I realized we didn't actually touch on, Joe. You were saying Couladin being killed off page.
Mm-hmm.
I also thought that it was interesting, and my first reaction was, we didn't get to see it. But then I don't know how you write the farmer with the spear beating the Aiel born with 2 spears or multiple spears and stuff. I feel like it might have been, maybe RJ could have done it. Maybe you can write some rolling dice and luck into it, or Matt pulling on his memories with the Ashendare. But I think it is probably best for believability's sake, because now you've got your own picture of what happened in there. Matt talks about him coming at, doesn't he glance his shoulder or his ribcage or something? He's got cuts and stuff from the fight
on his temple,
and
on his temple,
right? And Matt thinks man, he fought like a man possessed. He is lucky to have gotten out of that battle with his vital organs intact. But I was also disappointed at first, and then I thought, no, that's okay. It can be off page.
Yeah.
It seems anticlimactic for how Culloden was built up.
Yeah.
I do want to remind both of you that Matt bested Gowan and Gillard with 3 quick swoops whilst recovering from being poisoned by the evil of Mashadar, still eating 4 chickens a day, and using the quarterstaff that he bested these 2 up-and-coming swordmasters as a walking stick there and back. So that's the same guy that is now fit and fighting and has been on horseback and has got extra memories from generals past. So
yeah, when he fought Galad and Gowan, he didn't even have the memories.
Yeah, he didn't even have the memories. He could have easily, possibly in one foul swoop, taken down Culloden. Culloden charging.
Well, he didn't. He says he didn't.
Culloden charging with a big scream and spears and bucklers, and Matt just decapitating him like real quick, like Indiana Jones style with a pistol.
I think he says that it was a struggle.
Yeah,
yes,
I know,
it was. But that brings up another perspective that maybe that's how good Culloden was. Like, we should give credit to Culloden that if he could so easily beat those other 2.
They make mention of what, and not even just in that quote. I'm pretty sure there's another one. Oh, there's a callback for next time. But someone makes mention of the skill specifically of Culloden. Even among Aiel, he is considered an excellent fighter. And Galad and Gowan, in a sword training yard fighting with swords, do not have the hand and foot battle tactics and skills that the Aiel have. Multiple spears, which is not a sword.
Makes mention of it.
Yeah. And also, like, with years, I mean, he's an older guy, years of actual battle experience, not just training in the yard. So I actually give more credit to Matt for beating Culloden than I do for beating Gowan and Galad.
Yeah, because Matt just bested them. In this instance, Matt decapitated.
Yes, like you said, when he was sick. And also because they were also young and sort of like probably pumped up with their own sort of confidence in their own skills, because maybe they've done well against other guys training in the yard, sort of thing. Where Culloden, has probably fought in hard battles where he's lost all his weapons and relied on just his hands and feet and like his wits and like, being. How did Terry Pratchett, like this? He wrote about this group of old barbarians or Vikings that they stayed alive for so long because they had the skill of. The only thing that they did really well was whenever someone tried to hit them, they just made sure they weren't there. Like whenever they,
good skill.
It's a good skill, and like something like that is probably sort of ingrained in Culloden over years of battle against other Aiel, right? Not just fart-arsing around with little skirmishes. But anyway, long story short, didn't mind it. Also thought, it's off page, but then in the end, don't mind it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then, to our listeners, send in your favorite moments and your crazy theories or things we missed or things we straight up got wrong. Sort us out. Help us out. Please, for the love of all that's good and holy. And like Willie reminded us last time, rate and review the podcast where you can. I think on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and stuff, you can give star ratings and write reviews and that sort of thing. Anything to help surface the podcast on other people's radars that would in turn get them to contribute to the podcast, like many of our listeners have thus far, which is really, really great, which is why we're here, to make this a conversation. Okay, next time on Blood and Ashes, we will cover from chapter 47, called The Price of a Ship, to chapter 51, News Comes to Cairhien. That's 5 chapters. So I think what I'll do is I'll do a chapter myself so that you guys can share the balance evenly between you. We'll do it that way because there's only about 10 chapters left of the book, which means next episode will be the penultimate one, which means that our 50th episode will be the final episode for book 5, which means we've averaged 10 episodes per book.
Wow. That's very cool.
Yeah. Look at that. So yeah, being the penultimate episode, things are gonna, I assume, heat up even more. Cairhien happens, Landfear happens. I'm gonna have to get reading and dust off the old chapter summary skills for our next episode. But until then, sleep well and wake.
Cheers, everyone.
Good evening.